All right, guys, I'm back. First question of the day. By the way, we're doing the whole TikTok, YouTube thing, and I was suspended for a week for nothing, absolutely nothing. Anyways, first question of the day: do Jewish people believe in heaven? Yeah, Jewish people believe in heaven, and they believe in hell. Now, the bigger question is: does Torah teach on the idea? The Torah does not teach on the idea of heaven or hell. So it seems like you're not expected or commanded to believe in this notion. Now, it's kind of interesting that two of the major monotheistic religions on this planet, Christianity and Islam, are built specifically on the notions of heaven and hell, and their source material, i.e., the Torah, doesn't even mention it. Go figure. Yeah, so I mean, as a Jew, you're not expected to. I mean, the Torah doesn't expect you to believe in it. Okay, let's see. I think someone's asking me, how can I prove or can I explain how Judaism is a better or superior belief system from Weather Underground? Oh, I can't explain it in French. Okay, I'm a Christian, but I respect you. Okay, I respect Christians also. Ethical Christians. I respect the religion. What are your thoughts about the shots possible making cows trafe? I don't know much about it. You have to understand what a treifa is. Treif doesn't mean unkosher. I mean, although a treifa is an unkosher animal, a treifa is a wound that I believe kills the animal within, I think, 6 months, which I don't think the cow does that. But I don't believe the shot does that, but I'll have to look into it. Okay, Google U.S. Liberty incident. Fine. That was Israel. This is not a political show. This is a religious show. Do you consider Judaism to be an ethnicity? If so, how? Judaism is not ethnicity at all. Now, the Jewish people are. There's a distinction. One is a religion, and one is an ethnicity. Now, some say that we are an ethno-religion. That's actually not true. Not true. The Jewish people may be an ethnicity, but the religion itself has nothing to do with blood. Now, if you're born from a Jewish mother, there's a certain legal status you have in Judaism, but that has nothing to do with God and spirituality. That has to do with legality. So if you're extending legality to the point that you're including the religion, okay, there's an ethnic component, partially. That means if you happen to have a Jewish mother, and then you're legally considered Jewish, similar to Islam. No one's going to say that Muslims are an ethnicity, but Islam has the same procedure. If you happen to be born of Islamic parents, you don't have to say your Shahada again. No one's going to say Islam is an ethnocentric religion. Okay, let's see. It's a Hebrew Israelite, and a Jew means very clearly evil. What does that even mean? Okay. How was Purim? Purim was good. I am of the opinion, like, I don't drink on Purim, by the way. And I'm an Orthodox Jew, and I believe in Torah and Halakha and all that stuff. But it doesn't mention in the Mishnah. One, I'm against. I believe you're not allowed to get drunk. And I have a video. Even if you understood the law as it's taught by many rabbis nowadays, that there's some sort of obligation to get tipsy, that's not how it's brought down by the major commentators or the major experts on Jewish law. For example, Maimonides has halachic parameters for drunkenness, which is drinking what's called the revi'it, which is, I believe, is 3 ounces, taking a nap, and that's it. But you're not supposed to ever get drunk. Will I be welcomed if I convert? Sure. Of course, there's jerky people all over the place. Okay. Judaism is a mixed bag. I would say in the vast majority of synagogues, you will be welcomed if you convert. Now, you would be converting in that synagogue. It would take you about a year anyway. So by that time, you know anyone, and you know everyone, and if you end up converting, it's because they like you. Judaism does not proselytize. Are you trying to convert people? I am trying to convert people. And Judaism, you mean, if you're defining Judaism by what Jews do nowadays, yes, Jews nowadays don't proselytize. If you're saying Judaism in terms of the religion that is based off of source material, that means the Talmud, the Mishnah, right? The Talmud is part of the Mishnah. Torah, Tanakh. If you're saying that's against it, then it's not. There's nothing in Jewish law, or for sure the Torah or Tanakh, that prohibits proselytizing. As a matter of fact, there's more in Jewish law that if one was familiar with how Jewish law functioned, they would encourage you to want to proselytize. So in terms of the religion, Judaism has no issue with proselytizing. It's a good idea according to the religion. According to the people, they're a little confused. Let's see. Welcome.
Hi.
Well, you're the first host, the first guest of the day. So welcome, my friend.
Cool. I don't know how your live goes. I've just stumbled on it for the first time. Would you be open to a very brief discussion about Christianity from a certain intellectual perspective?
I'm not a Christian, but sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I like the idea of Judaism, but I also think that it's reasonable to believe that the evidence points to the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth being a historical, literal event, which kind of ties me down to at least some form of Christianity. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense that you can believe that, but can you explain how the evidence points to that?
Yeah, so the two pillars of evidence that I have are like for example, if the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth actually happened, what evidence would we have? We would have a lot of word of mouth spreading of this information. Eventually, some of it would get written down because, at the time, writing stuff was not the primary form of information dissemination. And then we would also have a group of people who were continuously obeying the words of this person and carrying these teachings on until this day. And so those are the two main pillars: the writings. Well, I guess three of them. The writings that were immediately there, the word of mouth teachings that eventually resulted in more writings in the 2nd and 3rd centuries, and then the cultus or the church that continues to exist to this day that traces its roots back to those events.
Okay. But just let me respond to that. So, what would you say about a group that has grown to great numbers and didn't have 2,000 years to do so? For example, the followers of Joseph Smith, who, I mean, they're essentially almost in every country in the world. And does that in some way validate that he found two golden tablets?
No, not at all. I think that's a very good point. Just the existence of these things isn't sufficient evidence. But the existence of these things, plus the idea that there were multiple, potentially hundreds of eyewitnesses of the resurrected person of Jesus of Nazareth over a course of weeks. And these witnesses were supposedly of multiple classes and different cultural backgrounds and education levels, which gets rid of a lot of different potential alternatives like hallucination theory.
But it didn't say that. It didn't say that. You're quoting when he ascended, it said that 500 people saw him, but it doesn't depict those people.
True.
And in terms of historical narrative, what other texts outside of the New Testament and Pliny the Younger, Tacitus, and possibly Josephus write of the event?
See, that's the thing. I think that the New Testament documents are the main pillar of written events during the time, but I also don't think that just because they're included in the canon of the New Testament of Christianity, that they're somehow discredited as biased. Because if you were to have somebody who were to actually believe these events were to be true, either through personal eyewitness account or independent research, for example, the physician Luke, when they wrote this down, they would also then become Christian inherently. So their documents would then be at least candidates of being included in the New Testament canon. And if they also lived lives that were compatible with the teachings of the person that they believed in, then it would make even more sense that these would be included in the canon. So I don't think that automatically discredits them.
So we know nothing about Luke, but we don't even know if he existed. And I would say that goes for the vast majority of people who claim to have written these books. A lot of the books, for example, the book of Hebrews or even the book of Revelation, we don't know exactly who wrote them. I'm glad that you're making a distinction between evidence and proof. For sure, there's evidence, right? Proof, there is not. But I'm just not convinced. I get it. Like Judaism has a lot to take up on faith as well. But this is why whether Moses existed or not doesn't validate my religiosity at all. However, if this book, i.e. the Torah, in some way made the world a worse place, didn't improve lives, then that itself would break my religion. So, I mean, if anything, that could be well, being that Christianity really only brought metaphysics and narrative to the table versus Judaism that actually brought ethics, I guess you can't make the same claim because it's kind of hard to falsify a book that's been so influential. I mean, falsify a book as possibly, being divinely inspired, that's been so influential in civilizing this planet, which is not the Christian Bible, essentially, but the first part of the Christian Bible, which is the legal code that came through Moses. And that's the foundation of my religion. Yeah, so this is why I think Judaism is better. I'm not saying Christianity is bad. I mean, I think Christianity is good, but I just think Judaism is better.
And that's a reasonable position to take, especially considering your stance on the evidence of what I consider the reasonable plausibility of the New Testament's resurrection claim. But a couple of things you mentioned. One of them was related to what you said about the historicity of the person of Moses. And I am actually curious, by the way, just as a quick tangent, do you believe that he was actually a literal person, a historical person?
Yeah. I mean, I believe it in faith.
I'm sorry, but with Moses, you maybe I misunderstand your answer, or maybe I misspoke my question, but do you think that Moses was a literal person?
In faith.
Oh, so what does that mean?
That means I can't prove it. I really don't have evidence outside of a book that mentions his name, or a set of books, right? I mean, the Torah is really one book, but it's split up into 5 sections nowadays. And however, I mean, for me to walk around saying I know Moses existed, I don't think does anyone a favor. I think our job is to first tell the truth and then give our opinion. So the truth is that I believe he existed, just because I believe in Moses because of the Torah, but I don't believe in the Torah because of Moses. Meaning, right. The Torah tells me Moses existed, and if the Torah, in some way, made this world a worse place, I wouldn't believe in it or the God it represents.
Fair enough, and that's related to the other thing I wanted to say, because actually I have the same reasoning process. A lot of the people I talk to on here, they're surprised when I explain that a lot of the Old Testament things I just take it for granted as I know it's true. I don't know how. There are some riddles in the Old Testament I don't quite know how to solve. But I just inherit the Old Testament because the New Testament inherits it as it accepts it as a given. So I guess I have a related or an agreed opinion with you on that. But at the same time, so you said that the authorship of, for example, Luke or Matthew or any of the 4 New Testament gospel writers of Christianity, we don't exactly know who wrote those. And also you said this about Revelation and Hebrews, and I agree that at least Hebrews is widely disagreed even in the early church fathers of Christianity. But at the same time, I don't think the authorship of these books matters to me, because still I have the data I'm working with is there's this existence of a group of people who trace its origins back to these books, and there's these books themselves, regardless of the fact that they don't have an author directly described at the top of them. It's still a bunch of words written in Greek that I have to explain. And one of the explanations that you gave was maybe it was forgery, maybe it was fictional, and there's a few other explanations. Maybe it's mythology or whatever. But I personally found, at least for my own research, that the best explanation that has the least holes is the supernatural one, that Jesus is actually supernaturally divine. And I don't fault you either for not.
Wait. I mean, that's a bold statement there. That has the least holes. I mean, if anything, we could in some way prove, I think, more accurately that Paul existed over Jesus existing. I mean, I think the best argument Christianity could make for being an ethical net good on this planet is that it's brought the vast majority of the inhabitants of this planet to ethical monotheism. Right? I mean, that's the best claim. Now, there's many Christians who don't even believe that Jesus is divine. For example, you're telling me deism, let's say, with the idea that we should in some way follow the New Testament or the Bible because of its ethics and its values versus the miracles, i.e. it's the ethics, not the revelation, that's life-changing and world-impacting. That's not, I mean, you're in some way pointing to the divinity of Jesus as the argument with the least holes in it. I mean, there's so many better arguments you can make.
Well, I mean, I guess a big aspect of why we're coming to two different conclusions is because we've read a lot of different sources from each other, and that's why I said, like, read as I was ending my last thing that I said is, I don't fault you for coming to a different conclusion, because if we're going to read from different sources, we're going to get different conclusions. And the sources that I've read have convinced me that all the alternative explanations of the resurrection and of the existence of these books fall short in several big logical ways. They have serious, reasonable gaps. And the resurrection is the only one that seems to not have any of these gaps. And so that's why I've come to that conclusion. But like I said, I've read different books than you have. And I think if I read the same books as you, I might have come to your conclusion. If you read the same ones as me, you might have come to mine. I don't
We
know.
share the same Bible. I mean, essentially, we share the same Bible. I don't believe in the New Testament, but
no, I mean like books outside of the Bible, books that were to give the arguments for.
Oh, I don't care about these other books. I mean, if the Bible itself can make a case for its own existence, then it's a bit useless.
Well, not necessarily, because sometimes like certain things are in the Bible, but they're not clear because maybe they're
disagree.
More or they're more intellectually difficult to grasp, and people with people like me who have a lower intellectual ability need somebody with more intellectual ability to spell it out for them.
Well, you sound very articulate. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're just being humble. So the Torah itself says, I think in Deuteronomy 28, verse 28, it says that the secret things are for God, and only what he has revealed is for us and our children to do. That means you don't need anything else in terms of having a relationship with God than what literally appears in the Bible. And if the only way you could properly understand the Bible is through some commentary, then perhaps it's time to find a new religion.
Oh no, I actually agree with that in a certain interpretation of what you said. And this is one thing that I disagree with most Christians that I end up seeing on TikTok Live, and it's one of the reasons I join most of their lives to debate them, is because I think the gospel is much simpler than they make it, and they use a lot of mental gymnastics to come to these strange conclusions. And I think that the gospel is simple enough for a child to understand. It's basically, you have to be good to create your own heaven or to get to heaven. Those are both the same thing in my mind, but you can't do it, and you need God's help to do it. And I think that's the basic of the gospel. And
well, let me let this lady speak a little bit. I'm sorry, because she's been waiting for a little while.
I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, hi there. I just didn't want to interrupt you guys.
No problem. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. And I just heard a minute ago you said something about Judaism is better than Christianity. Is that right?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
I agree 100%. And the reason I'm coming from different faith to you, both of you, because I'm a Muslim, and understanding Jews, like if there was a synagogue or church, I would rather go inside the synagogue and pray there. Why? Because there's no idols.
Yeah.
They don't worship idols.
I think that's the wrong reason, though, by the way. I mean, although the vast majority of Jews would agree with you, I don't think that itself makes anyone any more or less ethical if they happen to believe that there's
food-wise, and they eat kosher. So way they stay clean eating, discipline, family value. There's so many things I can look at Jews and say, you know what, they follow in they follow in their book the right way.
Right. All right. So, I mean, I can't disagree with you there. I mean, in terms of ceremonial law, for sure, Islam and Judaism have very similar ceremonial laws.
They don't eat pork and they don't get drunk on the streets. And
all right. Well, I mean, some Jews do. There's a holiday that just passed by called Purim.
I live in London in Golders Green, and that's a Jewish neighborhood.
Oh, Golders Green, I know.
I really know them very well.
Yeah.
So what I see is just the way they carry themselves, discipline. I mean, it's really quite different what I've seen it from Christianity, which they're my neighbors as well.
Have you ever considered becoming Jewish yourself?
No, but I did read the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran.
Did you know that you could convert to Judaism before I mentioned it?
Say that again?
Did you know that you can convert to Judaism before I told you?
No, because I remember they say no one can. You have to be born Jews.
Right. So that's what Muslims say, but that's not what the Bible says.
No, my neighbor told me that you have to be in 5 years of studying, and there's not even a possibility.
So in England, it's very hard in England. I don't know about 5 years, but for sure it probably takes around 2 to 3 minimum in England. But in other places, like in America, it takes about a year, sometimes a little less. But it's possible. I mean, it's not a complete ethnicity. Yeah, just know it's possible. Well, you were born Muslim or you converted to Islam?
I was born Muslim. My parents from originally in Somalia.
Oh, very nice. Okay. All right, someone's asking. Yes, I'm an Orthodox rabbi. Okay, welcome.
Yeah.
Yes, Miriam James.
Just because we've had our conversation here, and I don't want to take up any more guests' time. So I appreciate you, hosts.
All right, no, thank you. Thank you for being very respectful. Thank you.
All right, bye. Have a good day.
Thank you. Myron.
Yeah, you were saying.
No, there's a new
Yeah,
guest there.
I mean, I'm new to this religion stuff. I'm sorry, my English is very bad, but what is the difference between Judaism and Christianity?
Way different too.
So what's your background? I'm sorry. I'm curious. Where's your background, Myron?
What is the difference?
No, I get it. I got the question, but where's your
Judaism and
background?
Christianity.
Where's your background from?
What?
Where are you from originally?
From Europe, Slovenia.
Ah, okay. All right. I was trying to match the accent. So what's the difference between Judaism and Christianity? Okay, so Judaism, I would say, is a lot more monotheistic than Christianity, although that's not one thing I bash a lot. I mean, I don't believe in the Trinity. I don't believe that a man is God or that a man really could become God. However, the biggest fault I find with Christians is that they do away with the commandments. However, Christians do keep a lot of commandments, even unintentionally, just because they follow someone named Jesus who tried to live by Jewish law. He himself was a religious Jewish man. So the notion of the Messiah is a Jewish idea.
Do you believe Jesus is a God?
No.
No way.
I don't believe he's the Messiah either.
No.
You know, I'm actually was skeptical myself, but did you see in Brazil what they did with the parade? They were like worshiping Satan. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Some people do.
Yeah, go and watch. And you know what? You know what happened? 2 days later.
No, whatever.
They got flooded.
Oh.
God's angry.
I don't know, if that did it. I mean, because if that was the case, I mean, maybe.
I mean, a lightning struck right into the Jesus statue, and then the flood came. I mean, I was skeptical before, but now, damn.
So, brother, can I say anything? Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Stay away anything to do with idols.
All right,
we're not idol worshippers.
So
right?
the reason I don't feel that's from God.
Yeah, but did you see the parade? They were mocking Jesus.
Okay, so there's some countries on this planet who've done a lot worse, a lot worse, and for some reason, they remained, and that's including, let's say, the Soviet Union eradicating 40 million of its inhabitants, or Mao Zedong, and for some reason, China is still flourishing. This is why don't get stuck on first stage thinking. I mean, just the reason I'm not for people using things like that to come close to God is because if you come so quickly, you'll drop it that quickly. All right. Try to build an intellectual connection with God based on ethics and good values and trying to make the world a better place instead of trying to read signs and this is a sign, that's a sign. I don't know. I try to.
No, it's not only that. I mean, if you can if you research the people who died and came back from life, almost everybody saw Jesus.
Yeah, but the other thing I was going to say as well is it's not only idol, is do not believe a man is a god.
No, a man cannot be a god. Right. A god can become a man.
That's an interesting argument. So in the Jewish world, there's many people who in some way, died. And then while they were dead, they saw the rabbis. There's a rabbi online. His name is Alona Nava. I mean, he says that he went to heaven because he was, I think he OD'd or something. And while he was at the operating table, he saw the big rabbis in heaven. And then he came back and then he became an Orthodox Jew. Muslims do the same thing. Mormons do the same thing. So this idea that everyone who passes away only sees Jesus before they come back is something that a pastor tells over to convince people to become Christian.
Interesting. I wanted to ask you this. Do you believe Jesus is going to come back in the Torah?
Me?
See,
Yeah.
Oh, I don't believe in Jesus.
No, okay.
Yeah, no. I mean, I believe he was a decent individual. I mean, he sounds like a good guy. I just don't believe he's the Messiah, and I don't believe he's God.
okay.
Yeah.
May I ask the both of you, why is Hollywood only mocking Jesus, not other religion, only Jesus?
I don't know. They have the freedom to exercise something. That's what it is.
I know, but why don't it mock Muslims? Why doesn't mock
Because Muslims like crazy.
Buddhism?
They're gonna come
Why did
after
they
them.
mock? They only mock Jesus. Why?
Yeah.
That's
So
not
because
true.
the vast majority of Americans are Christian, and it's
What does it matter?
well,
But I think
also
it's
Christians
okay
are
to
very
mock your own
peaceful,
religion.
and I would say there's too many Jews. Well,
Yeah,
they're not considered
American.
minorities. Christians are not considered a protected minority in America. So the Democratic Party allows people to mock Christians, but they won't allow people to mock Jews and Muslims. I mean, it's just the way it is. So people are scared. They're scared to
Yeah.
mock
I
any
guess you're
religion,
right.
but Christianity.
You know what I think? I think the Hollywood knows the truth.
All right. So what's the truth?
You know,
What's the
the
truth? Can
truth
you
is
enlighten us?
the Jesus is the one and only Messiah.
All
Not
right.
just Messiah, the God,
I don't know.
the Son of God.
That's called demonizing your opponents.
Listen to me.
Mhm.
I was skeptical before, but now when I did my research, I see everybody is afraid of Jesus. That's why they mock them. I don't know. I'm not 100%, but it's like when you mock the truth is apparent to you. You know.
I don't think you should mock anyone, to be honest with you.
No, I think you should mock
but they're
evil people.
when you mock somebody, they're mocking for a reason.
Well, I mean, some people deserve to be mocked. I think bad people deserve to be mocked.
So you say Jesus is deserving to be mocked?
No.
I didn't say that. No.
I don't think Jesus is a
So
bad person.
why are they only mocking Jesus? Why not Muhammad?
Because
Yeah, please.
because politics says otherwise. Politics, they try to win with the votes of smaller groups like Muslims and Jews and this and that. So when someone makes fun of Christianity, they're not going to lose a vote if they don't come to their defense. That's the difference. I mean, it's completely political. Yeah. Now, in places like Europe, in many places, I'm sure in Poland, like people can go too far, like mocking Christianity. But in a place that takes Christianity serious, right, it's just America's become soft. Now, I don't think Christianity or Islam should be mocked. I think any unethical belief system should be mocked. I think Christianity and Islam are both ethical net gains on this planet.
We should all live with each other as peace.
So you're saying, I see in the comments, so you're saying because we let Jesus being mocked, that's why they're mocking him?
Well, pretty much. Also, the Christians, in some way, it's part of their nature to turn the other cheek, let's say. So Christians believe in long suffering, meaning if you suffer for your beliefs like Jesus did, this is in some way a merit to you. Unlike other belief systems that like believe in conquest and believe in some...
See, your answer right now makes me believe that Jesus was real, that Jesus was a God. You know why?
Why?
Because
How did that come? I don't know.
Wait. No, because when we believe in Jesus, we know He is the true Savior, and when you mock Him, we will understand Him in our hearts. But you won't. Because
We're not mocking him, though.
All right, let's
everybody's mocking him.
change the subject because there's more people in the room. But let's not completely make this about this. All right.
I have
Hi.
Hi.
Yes.
Okay,
hi.
thank you for your time, man.
Okay,
But,
thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say, from Hollywood and from everybody, even from the Muslims who are mocking, even the Muslims are mocking Jesus for being.
All right.
I'm so
Next.
sorry. You weren't making sense.
Yeah, I had to kick him off. All right. Welcome, Lambo.
Great work you guys are doing over there. I mean, it's really interesting and very educating enough. But I have a question, and it's been a question that has been on my mind for a long time. But I think this is time that probably I could let it out.
All right.
And this question is: when does somebody become Jewish? Like, when do you call somebody Jewish? Does it mean that that person is not a real Jew? Because I think a group of people, if a group of people have a name, you can't call them something ish, because the English language is so interesting that when you say Jewish, or you mention a word and you add ish to it, it means sort of, kind of, look like.
What you mean, like Danish,
and
English, and Scottish, and Irish?
Something.
No, you have the right to be born. Like if someone says Jewish, I'm not looking at black person or Indian person or Asian. I would know Jews as nationality, one people, one family, and they follow Judaism. That's why I didn't understand. Like, I didn't think anyone could be any Jewish. I mean, join the religion.
All right, so we're dealing with the English
Chinese,
language here, not Hebrew.
You guys don't have that multi-culture.
All right.
I don't know if you can explain.
So when you call, like, I've been hearing this for a long time. So when you call somebody like he's Jewish or she's Jewish, I don't get it. Does it mean that?
All right, let me explain then.
He's not a real Jew.
Got it. Okay, well, so the ish, what doesn't mean that he wishes that he's Jewish. And I gave examples: Danish, English, Scottish, Irish.
Yeah.
Okay, that refers to the nationality in the English language. Okay, in Hebrew, the word is Israel. It's not Jewish. The word Yehudi means someone who, in some way, either in terms of ideology or ethnicity, traces those things back to the kingdom of Judah. Now, in the Bible itself, it says there shall be one law, right? I.e., one covenant that connects man to that law for the native-born Hebrew and the stranger that attaches himself to them. It says that on Mount Sinai there stood a mixed multitude of peoples. And a few chapters later, they're all called Israel. In, I believe, the last chapter of the book of Esther, we just read it yesterday morning. It says that the people who weren't Hebrews, they were mityahadim. They became Jewish. So this notion that it's only a race or an ethnicity is inaccurate.
Yeah, I get it.
No, I know you get it. I don't think he does.
Okay, so I've heard your explanation. Can you call this group of people or this ethnicity, can you call them Jews instead of saying they are Jewish?
Man, come on, man. We're losing viewers. We have to. I mean, this is silly. This is silly. I mean, I'm sorry. There's a certain level of.
And I wanted to ask. Oh, sorry. There's another question.
Panache. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna talk about that one guy who was talking about Brazil or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm just Brazilian. That's all.
Okay.
Legal.
Yeah, that's kind of a jacked up take, but I can, like, if it was like the hand of God or whatever working, I mean, Brazil is pretty religious and pretty Catholic centric. So, like, a country that claims to follow God and then does something like that, I could see why, like, because I know in the Bible, Israel, like, sometimes goes astray and then they get kicked out eventually. But
Yeah, I mean, how about North Korea, Cambodia, Cuba? I mean, it's a weird argument. It's a weird argument. Jews do the same thing also. Who said that? There was a rabbi. It was a Rabbi Yosef who said that Katrina happened because of like America. They were Christians and idolatry. Like this silly arguments. I think it hurts people coming to religion more than it helps it. Because their goal is to scare you into becoming religious. Just like most rabbis will tell you, at least the ones who are like nationalistic, that all Jews have to live move to Israel because the next big attack is going to happen in America. All right, I don't know. It's kind of a primitive approach to religion and looking for new adherents to your religion. Yeah.
Feet tactics, yeah, they do.
Bendito nene.
Hola, Jaime.
Ya tú sabes. All right. Well, you saw, like, I've been putting up your videos.
Wait, what happened, Ralph?
I've been putting up your videos.
Oh, yeah. I heard. I saw one of them. I heard my voice. I was like, wait, that's me?
No, but the last three of them, I had your name on them. I mean, had your voice in them. I had to splice up a little bit. I didn't want to. You mentioned some other people's names. I didn't want to get anyone in trouble.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And I wanted to ask you one thing before I go. I didn't understand. About flasher. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know if they call them flasher. The Ethiopian Jews. The East African Jews.
Oh, Falashas from Ethiopia.
Yeah, Falashas.
Yeah, they don't like that term.
They
prefer to be called Bet Yisrael.
I don't know what the meaning. Sorry if I didn't mean to disrespect, but I don't know what that means.
It's not Hebrew. I think Falasha was a term that they were called that in their country or something.
Wait, I know what it is.
Yep.
So Falasha was what they used to call the Ethiopian Jews when they were in Ethiopia, which is a word that meant foreigner. It's like, it's a derogatory term. They themselves prefer to be called like Beta Israel, which is like the house of Israel, but Falasha was like a term that almost like saying like to the Sephardic Jews that were Anusim, they would call them Moranos, like swine. It's a derogatory term.
Yo, what's going on, everybody?
Okay.
Welcome, Saleh Hawad.
Yeah, what's going on? I heard Ethiopian Jews. What's the discussion? What's going on?
No. We're talking about Judaism in general.
Asking.
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't know how they.
Fun fact, did you guys know that the Ethiopians living inside of Israel are giving contraceptives in their food and drink?
No, they're not. Stop.
Yeah,
no, they're not.
All right.
They were given it's called a sensationalization. No, it doesn't.
They went to try to rescue them and brainwash them.
My friend, I have a bunch of friends who are Ethiopian Jews that live in Israel.
They're more than you.
Oh, brother.
All right, I kicked him off. But the only reason I kicked him off is because he had an echo. But I really wanted to ask him, like, how can you?
It makes sense anyway, so it's okay.
How
I just
could
wanted to know, how did they come about? Because with
How did who come about?
East African Jews.
Oh, okay. So from what I know, East African Jews claim three different origins depending on what area of Ethiopia they are. One is that they are members of the tribe of Dan that migrated there. The second one is from just Jewish migrants after the diaspora, and the third one claims to be descendants of Menelik, who was the son of Solomon and Queen Sheba of Ethiopia. So those are the three usual origins that they say, that because Menelik was sent back with the Queen of Sheba back to Ethiopia, so they claim descendanship from there. But regardless of the fact, they were there for a very long time, and I know there was also a small time where Ethiopia ended up converting for a while to Judaism, and I think it was in the Aksum kingdom, but I'm a little bit fuzzy on that in that history. But they were there for a long time, and then Ethiopia became Orthodox Christian, and then it became Muslim, and then it started to persecute the Jewish minority to the point that, then Israel decided to rescue them in 19 whatever.
Yeah. Thank you. Did you guys knew there was a small tribe in Somalia as well called Yibir? Have you heard of it?
No.
They're Jews as well.
But
Very minority.
at least now you know that you could convert to Judaism. You live in Golders Green already, so that's in London. That's the place to be if you're Jewish. I guess.
I live in a Jewish neighborhood. The reason I moved to a Jewish neighborhood is much cleaner, much safer, much nicer. So I'm not gonna lie to you. And I can get halal food as well. The food they eat kosher, the same thing. So I respect them. They respect themselves as well. They're very disciplined people. They make a good neighbors. So thank you for having me. I'm gonna leave now.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by.
Cheers. Bye.
All right. So what other controversy do you have today, Ali Baba?
I've had no controversy for today.
No? All right.
I've been watching your videos. In the talks.
I've been watching your videos. For all my African or Latina queens, right? I've been watching your stuff.
Yeah, Robbie. I'm making sure to get all kinds of different people listening. Teach a little here and there.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. All right. Yes, I was quoting one of his videos. Although African queens are welcome. Hebrew Christian. All right. Let's make this interesting. Welcome, Hebrew Christian.
Gentlemen. How's it going?
Good. You have a nice radio voice.
Well, thank you. They used to call me Voice back in the day. So.
What's that? Sound like Kevin Samuels.
Interesting. Kevin Samuels.
All right.
I haven't heard that one.
Kevin Samuels? Oh, him, yeah. So what's your contribution? Go ahead.
Well, interesting. I've done a year and a half study out of the Bible on genealogy. So I would have to say that was one of my strongest attributes.
Genealogy itself, I'll tell you off the bat, is not so important. I mean, unless you're striving to be a high priest or a Levite, or maybe a king, but kings could really come from any tribe. So I don't know. I mean, I know there's a group amongst blacks who try to say that they're the original Hebrews, which, I mean, doesn't bother me. It does bother me when they say that the original Hebrews were specifically black. That's, I mean, they're making it kind of racial there. But even if they would say that, but then say that you yourself could become Jewish as well, no matter what color you are, that wouldn't bother me either. So where do you fall within that argument?
Well, I don't think I fall into that argument. Like I said, I've done the study and I follow the evidence. So it's not really an argument of, when it comes to genealogy, it points specifically in a direction. And according to whatever book that you subscribe to, it might differ. But according to the Holy Scriptures, or the Bible, if you will, the genealogy that comes from there, it's not really questionable.
I think it's very questionable. I mean, I have to interrupt you just because you're the reason it's questionable in terms of, okay, I have no issue you believing that you're a Hebrew Israelite by descent. I have no issue with that at all. However, do you think that somebody could become part of Israel if they wanted to? And like someone who had no pedigree, no Mosaic or Abrahamic pedigree.
Well, first of all, I don't identify as Hebrew Israelite. I don't identify as that.
Okay.
If that's what you were insinuating. I'm not from that camp or study their doctrine or anything of the sort.
Yeah, but do you identify as a Hebrew?
Let's go ahead.
Do you identify as a Hebrew?
I identify as a Hebrew man.
Oh, okay. All right. Do you believe that people could convert to Judaism?
Under certain stipulations, yes. Under stipulations, would they be under certain stipulations? I would just put it that way. But as far as being well versed in Judaism and whether somebody could convert or not, I would not. I would have to digress. I would have to. You would probably be better off answering that question than I would.
Is that your TV? All right, hold on. Let me mute somebody.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. I mean, I muted the other guy. Okay. No, well, I think instead of focusing so much on genealogy, perhaps you should have just read the narrative. I mean, according to the narrative, it says, I mentioned how Jews all over the world who are religious read yesterday morning the book of Esther, and in that end of the book of Esther, it said that many people converted to Judaism. They became Jews. If you believe in Jesus, let's say, your handle is the Hebrew Christian, so I assume you do. You're familiar that his great-great-great-grandmother was Ruth, who was from the tribe of Moab. And I'm sure you're familiar with the mixed multitude that also accepted the covenant on Mount Sinai. So, yeah, I mean, if you're familiar with the idea of conversion, or someone from the outside coming close and being counted amongst God's people, then why focus so much on genealogy?
Well, the genealogy study was something that came after having a full understanding of the scriptures, of reading them. So, after having a full understanding or grasping what you seem to be a full understanding, you go on to other things that interest you. And genealogy was one of those things that seemed kind of boring, especially to the reference points that you had to go to in Genesis 6 and Chronicles and other places that led to the genealogy search. But more importantly, I think what the genealogy showed me was the truthness that the Bible carried when I followed the genealogies all the way back. For instance, when we did do a study on Judaism, if you will, because that's what you call it, but the word Jew first appeared in the Bible in 2 Kings, I believe it was 6:16. I don't have a Bible in front of me right now. But off the top of my head, it was around 2 Kings 6:16. And they were living in a province outside of Jerusalem in Elat. And this is when Israel and Syria came up against Jerusalem and besieged it, and they took Elat, and the Jews migrated out of Elat, and Syria took it back. That was the first encounter of the word Jew in the Bible. And as you did the genealogy further back or further on, we understand that there was 2 covenants in the Bible. Do you agree with that? That there were actually 2 covenants with 2 different families in the Bible?
You mean before the Torah was given or after?
After.
in the Bible, do you mean the 5 books of Moses?
Well, there was a covenant with Abraham.
Yeah, but that's before the Torah was given.
Okay.
The Torah was given in Moses, my friend. Abraham is like quite a bit back.
You know, Asher, can I talk for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say that I believe all this, the BHI or whatever, they change their name every week, so I don't know how to identify them this week. I believe that they're real Jews just because of the chutzpah to come in and be Christian and at the same time claim to be a Jew. Like that takes real chutzpah. Only real Jews have chutzpah like that. You know, it's...
Yeah, I don't think it matters. You know, I mean,
in
if
the
someone...
genealogy study, if you're actually going from the scriptures, if we're going from the Bible, the Jews and the Hebrews were 2 totally different families. Now you're trying to...
No, they're not.
Now you're trying to... According to scripture.
Yeah, according to scripture, they're not.
Oh, brother.
Would you like a source? Would you like a source?
You can give me any source you want to give me.
Okay, simple. Israel is made out of the 12 tribes of Israel, correct? Yes or no?
That is part of Israel. The 12
Correct.
tribes.
Okay, so you said Israel and the Jews are 2 different people. Okay, Book of Esther, right? And Mordecai, the Benjaminite, the Jew. That's it, right there. From the tribe of Benjamin, the Jew. The word Jew was only a term that Jews adopted because of the southern Israel known as Judea. That's where the word Jew originated from. If you were from the tribe of Benjamin, the tribe of Judah, and part of the tribe of Levi that lived in the southern kingdom of Judea, you were called a Jew. That's the origin of the word. It's not that they're 2 different sets of people. You had after Solomon passed away and the nation split into 2, you had the northern kingdom of Israel, which was also called Ephraim, and you had the southern kingdom of Judea, which anybody who lived in there, part of the 3 tribes, were called Jews. That's why in the book of Esther, which is after that fact, Mordecai, the Benjaminite, is called a Jew.
Brother, you speak with such passion, and I appreciate it.
I can't do it. I mean, I have to drop him. I mean, it's just because we got to keep it going.
It's hilarious, though.
I let the guy speak.
I have a better theory, by the way. You know, I've heard today that apparently Vikings were Jews because Danes are tribe of Dan.
Oh, interesting. Tribe of Dan. Yeah.
Yep.
No, yeah, but that shouldn't bother us. I like people claiming to be Jews as long as they're nice people, right? And they're Torah observant. In terms of, okay.
But they're not.
Right, no, but if they were, okay. You know, if there was a football team called the Jews, I'd be happy.
You know, you want to be Jew, be a Jew. Why you have to be Christian and then claim to be a Jew? That's cosplaying, you know? That's pretending to be something you're not.
You know, it's like would a Christian be upset if there were other groups identifying as Christian? You know, like, I think they'd be happy. For some reason, like, the left always has an issue. Like, we shouldn't have a football team called the Redskins, this and that. If there was a football team called the Jews, right? I mean, I think this would be a great thing. Right? I mean, they probably wouldn't be too athletic, but yeah, fine.
Hey,
welcome,
I
Maccabee.
don't want to be on here too long.
Hi.
But I do want to say, Jewish. It's the ethnicity, right? It's not a nation. It's the ethnicity.
Not fully. Not fully.
Okay, well then hold on. Let's examine the issues. You saying wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, remember how I came to talk to you and you kicked me off because you couldn't provide any evidence? So you decided it's better just to drop me instead of try to argue with me? I remember that part.
Now how about this, sir? Not me. I've never kicked nobody off. Oh, so that means you had to come on my live.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Because how can I kick anybody off on anybody else's live?
Yeah,
right?
I asked you for evidence, and you, instead of providing evidence, you dropped me.
Man, I have never dropped anybody, never ran from anybody. Who is this talking? Who's talking?
I'm talking.
Reuven Chaim.
Well, state your claim. I have never ran from anybody on these subjects, bro. I mean,
who was
state
the
your
Russian
claim.
King Joseph? You claim that Russia had King Joseph.
Sir, you're speaking up for the wrong person. I mean, that ain't never been me. You've never, it's never been me.
Reuven, give him a second to talk.
Oh, he's gonna bring the Khazari claim right now again. You'll see.
What Khazari claim? Listen, you're talking to the wrong person, sir.
It's all right. Don't mind him. Go ahead.
Okay.
Speak what you got to speak.
Yeah.
Well, my issue is my claim is not about Khazaris or Ashkenazis or Sephardics or any. Even though I can talk those subjects, I don't run those subjects, sir. See, because I understand that the people who call themselves Jewish today, I understand their origin,
Which is?
during the Greek captivity, other nations brought themselves into Israel. Now, if we want to talk about Ashkenazis, I mean, just not to talk about them, but you can see when I'm talking about their date of origin. I'm not talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
Their date of origin. Now, here's the question you have to ask yourself. When did Aramaic reach Israel? Why was Christ speaking?
Hold on. You've made a lot of statements. You have to allow us to respond
in Israel
for each one.
speaking
Hold
Aramaic or speaking
on. Hold on.
Arab
Okay.
language when they were Hebrew men. Would you like to explain that?
All right. I'm going to mute you for a little bit. Hold on, guys, because I don't want this show to completely go out of control. I'm not going to kick Mr. Maccabee out, but I don't care. Like, if people want to identify as Israel or culturally appropriate, that doesn't bother me. Okay. What I want them to prove is, are they familiar with conversion to Judaism? If every white Jew out there was an actual Jew because they converted to Judaism, I wouldn't even care. I mean, this whole thing that because we're genetic or we have some Abrahamic pedigree that we're superior is a bigoted idea. And when Jews push it, because some Jews do push it, I cringe as well. So, are you familiar with the notion of becoming Israel or joining yourself to the tribe? Go ahead, Maccabee. Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
Well, I guess he's MIA.
Okay, fine. No, he's here. I just, there's no point of.
He just muted me out. All right.
All right, you go ahead.
What I'm trying to say, and I was talking the whole time.
No, you didn't listen to my question. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Okay.
Ezra,
This has to be a dialogue.
May I?
You're making a lot of statements here. You have to allow us to respond to each one before you move on to the second one. I mean, there's other people who want to talk also.
All right. Well, then I'm going to stay pointed. When they came back from the Babylonian captivity, don't forget they had foreign wives. And they were not allowed in let's say, the greater metropolitan area. And they gave them an area that they named Samaria. These were, I don't want to say, these were the Jews who came back from Babylon, but they had foreign children and foreign wives.
Can I respond to this?
So were they Jews? Were they considered Jews?
Hold on.
I would say yes. They had Jewish fathers.
Let me respond.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So these are, and I just want to say, these are your Jewish. These are the onset of your, AKA today, Jewish people today. Okay. So are they Jews? Yes.
Hold on.
Land the whole time.
Gosh.
Go ahead.
I was just about to kick you out. Okay. I'm going to respond to that secondly. First, I'm going to ask the same question I asked when you were, I guess, muted and talking and not knowing that you were muted. Are you familiar with the idea of an outsider becoming an Israelite or a Jew?
Well, there is nowhere in the Torah. There is no conversion table in the Torah. And if you can show me somewhere where people can convert to Judaism, I would love to hear it.
Okay.
Are you going to talk about the strangers?
Well, it doesn't
Or the
say strange.
sojourners?
No,
Go
okay.
ahead.
No. The term is Erev Rav. So the Erev Rav on Mount Sinai, there's sort of a mixed multitude of peoples who, alongside the Hebrews, said Nasi v'Nishna, they accepted the Torah, they entered a covenant with God. And a few chapters later, they're indistinguishable between the native born. Now, yes, the statement is that there shall be one law for the native born, and the sojourner in Hebrew is Ger Hagar, the stranger that sojourns with you, right? One law. However, elsewhere, it also uses the word Ger to distinguish the stranger who united himself to Israel and an actual stranger that you're allowed to give what's called nevela to, like animals that die on their own, i.e. non-kosher food and stuff like that. Also, I mentioned how Ruth, the great-great-great-grandmother of Jesus, was from Moab, that she in some way attached herself to the Jewish people. At the end of the book of Esther, it talks about people becoming Jewish. Mityahadim, it specifically says they became Jewish. You could respond to that. Go ahead. I didn't mute you, so.
Okay. But it also talked about in the book of Maccabees where the nation of Edom was converted over to Judaism. Also in the book of Maccabees.
Correct.
All right, so that's all I want to say. I mean, that's all I want to say. So we're just, I don't want to make no accusations, but there's a conversion there of Edomite people.
Right.
And that's it. Is that bad or good? No, it's just what it is. If we stick to the facts of the story, we could probably iron all this stuff out.
So why does it matter?
I never said no one was fake. See, that's why everyone, they keep wanting to say, everybody want to put a jacket on me. I ain't never went around here talking about Jewish.
So why does it matter? Why does it matter? Now, I don't believe that Ashkenazi Jews were invented in the time of Ezra, and nowhere in the texts does it say that the wives that they were told to put away were moved over to Samaria. I think you're confusing the Assyrians, who in some way brought individuals from different parts of their empire and placed them in Samaria, and they became the Samaritans. But
it's in Ezra. I can't pull it up on this phone because it will come off the app to pull it up. But I would love to have the very verse. It's kind of at the end of the book of Ezra. Yeah, it's in the last chapter. Yeah, they came back with foreign wives and they put the wives away. Remember, and the guy said he wasn't going to put his wife away, and they ran in there and thrust right through him and his wife.
Oh no, I mean, you're confusing stories. That's the story of Pinchas. So,
okay, would you like to elaborate that, sir? Why did that happen? Why did that event happen? Why did the man run into the tent and thrust through an Israelite and his wife? What was the premise of that?
Because the Midianite women were seducing the Israelite men, and Pinchas took it upon himself to eradicate or to do away with the. Was it Zimri? I mean, he was one of the chieftains of Israel who was in some way publicly having sex with a Midianite woman. I mean, it's not that she was a foreigner.
Sir, that's Judah. You're talking about the story of Judah and getting called. No, sir. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when they said they sinned against their God by taking foreign wives. And at this day, we're gonna put these foreign wives away. This is in the book of Ezra. Ezra.
No, yes, I'm familiar with that. Ezra told them.
Torah. There's two separate stories, completely unrelated story. In the book of Ezra is when they came back from Babylon with foreign wives. You talking about story of Pinchas, where he killed the Midianite woman and a Jewish man that happened in the desert during Exodus from Egypt. You should actually read the Bible before you come and argue.
Hey, I guarantee, boy, let me go get my Bible, boy. You playing with it. Who said that? Hey, I'm pausing out, and I'm going to bring up the verse. Whoever said that, stand on that. No, you heard what was just said. We're going to bring out the actual story. I'm going to pause out. I'll be back. We heard what you just said, and then you told me to read the Bible. And then we're going to see what the Bible actually says, all right? So I'm gonna pause out.
All right,
Yeah,
go ahead.
go
Just
ahead.
do it. Just do it, man.
Go ahead. Yeah, Pinchas and Ezra at the same time. That's a great story.
All right. Anyways, fine.
Asher, I know you're trying to help these people, but this dude, like, you're arguing with somebody who's trying to push Christianity on people.
No, I understand. I'm not doing it for his sake, by the way. I mean, I'm doing it for the sake of everyone listening. This is how people learn the most, when they hear dialogue back and forth. And it's fine. I mean, even though, look, the guy's trying. And I got him to admit that people could become Jewish, which in some way washes out the whole I'm a pure Israelite argument, because it doesn't matter anymore. Assuming every white Ashkenazi Jew was a convert, who gives a crap? The truth is they do, which makes it stupid. I mean, it destroys my whole argument, because the Jewish people are not my biggest fans. But it doesn't matter. It's the idea that blood matters is like the last primitive belief that we have to do away with. Okay.
I agree with that, but this is like, the point is, I'm assuming you're trying to convert people to Judaism. You're right, and this is pushing people away from it.
You think so?
No, I don't think so. I don't think
so. I don't think so. I mean, it depends. Well, I don't know. I don't think so.
There's gonna be, listen, the crazies that believe the crazy stuff is gonna go to the crazy stuff regardless. The few people that are actually listening and hear what sounds like a reasonable argument and what doesn't sound, I'm pretty sure those people slowly, bit by bit, little grains, little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't it confusing people to think that believing in Jesus is part of Jewish beliefs?
No. They see us arguing about it. And they're asking me, and I'm telling them, look, I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe he's God. I think the biggest service I do on TikTok is letting Muslims know that you can become Jewish. That itself, I've had Muslim people text me, like thanking me, saying now they're looking into conversion because they didn't know before they converted to Islam that this was an option. So this is, trust me, it's better than what the average Jew does on TikTok. That when a Muslims make the claim that we're a completely ethnic, like an ethnocentric religion, that the Jews stay quiet. That's the worst thing that we could do, because we're not offering them an alternative to their belief system. So we're offering. And I think my approach is probably the most subtle, respectful approach. I'm not saying their religion is bad. I'm just saying our religion's better. All right? Whatever.
All right.
But I appreciate your frustration. All right. I don't know. Maybe I should just drop the guy, just to
You might as well. I mean, we all know that there's no Pinchas in Ezra's story, right?
No. I just feel bad because I don't want him to lose face like that.
I'm still listening, gentlemen. And you can drop me if you wish, but that ain't gonna stop me from listening. That ain't that. And you sure didn't help me with the issue. So the issue will stand. That's fair.
We said we're gonna drop you for a second so that you can
find what I said. Come back. You can, but there's no resolution to the issue. So it will come back up in the future. So just you feel like you're triumphing in something. Hey, and what I wish I had my other phone, because I'm trying to look it up right in the Bible, and I'm at the story. But hey, if it's about time, it's about your life.
Yeah, it is. So I had to drop him because I don't want to embarrass the guy. I mean, the guy clearly couldn't find the text. Okay, and I should have dropped him before he spoke, because now I've really embarrassed him, and I don't want to embarrass people. Like, if you don't know, just act like your connection disconnected. There's things I don't know. I mean, I forget many times, especially. There's a lot of questions coming at me, and sometimes I don't know, right? I mean, you see me with my eyes closed, like trying to think of like a sugya from the Talmud, and I blank out. Fine, of course he was wrong of the whole spear Pinchas example, the notion of the Samaritans or the wives they put away in Ezra and Nehemiah in some way being moved over to Samaria and then becoming the Samaritans. He's wrong about that. And really, I think I may be wrong about this. It doesn't say that they brought the women from Bavel. It's talking about the people who were living in the land. I may be wrong. That they acquired foreign wives.
I think you're right. I think it was the wives that they already had in Israel.
Right.
Asher, there's a how you call it? The Hebrew Hammer says he wants to come up for a bit. I think he probably requested.
No, I know. But he I mean, they call him the hammer for a reason. You know, he hammers people very hard. All right, go ahead.
I think I already hammered that guy enough.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, that guy comes on everybody's live and does the same thing. If you scratch enough, it's like peeling an onion. All you got to do is peel till it makes you cry, and then eventually he'll start getting into Ham, Sham, and Japheth, and he'll start getting into the Khazars. It's the same thing. He's the same. He comes on my lives all the time. It's always the same spiel, same mishigas. But here's the thing. I actually did want to have an issue. First of all, in the book of Ezra, when the Jews came back from captivity in Babylon with the Midian women, those kids were not considered Jewish, which is one of the cases or one of the supportive positions of the idea that Judaism's always been matrilineal, that it wasn't patrilineal. Those children of those foreign wives were not considered Jewish. But here's the issue I have with you. And I agree with you on a lot. And I actually talked about you, Rabbi, when I went to Chabad for Shabbat Friday night, brought up this issue of proselytization. But that's a discussion for another day.
Okay.
Here's the issue about the conversion thing. And here's why it's problematic. Yes, at the end of the day, you're right. From the most technical aspect, we're not a people of blood quantum. We're a tribe. And as a tribe, we have the right to determine barrier of entry into our tribe. No different than the Navajo or any other tribe in the world who gets to determine what requirement or what criteria we put forth to determine entry into your tribe, right?
Right.
So that's fine. But here's the issue. The reason the Ashkenazis are converts or Ashkenazis are Khazars, it is an attempt to separate and divide our people based on, one, historical inaccuracies, what normal people call lies. It's a problem. See, if there's anything the Torah has taught us, it's that there's no more important value than the truth. And so the further we stray away from the truth, the more problematic it is. At the end of the day, you're right. It doesn't matter. Someone wants to call me a convert because I'm Ashkenazi, even though I'm darker than most Mizrahi and Sephardic Jews. It doesn't have an effect on me personally. I could care less.
Wait, hold on. Just let me respond to this.
When you allow a large...
I've never said that this is a rule in some way, that someone should emulate this. My time here is limited. My goal here is in some way to encourage people to possibly consider becoming Jewish. This is why I'm going straight regular. First, I want to drill it to their head. Did you know that you become Jewish? That's it. I mean, I'm not saying it's not important. I agree with you. I'm a big Dennis Prager fan. First, tell the truth, then give your opinion. Absolutely. All right. But I have an agenda here.
Yeah, and I'm good with that agenda. And I listen, I understand. And that's why I'm coming up here, because I know that you and I have a different agenda with regards to what we're doing here. You have a specific purpose about wanting to bring the Torah to people and opening up their eyes to the possibility of conversion. And I'm actually good with that. And you know that a lot of the people that I'm friends with here give me shit for it, but I don't really care because, I'm a big boy and I'll make up my own mind. My agenda here is to fight back against the people trying to do our community harm. And by trying to divide our community, look, the whole Ashkenazi, Mizrahi, Sephardic debate, I get it. It's kind of cool for our people from a cultural, traditional standpoint. Like, I'm Ashkenazi. What do I do for Pesach? Ali Baba might be Sephardic. What does he do for Pesach? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. That's fine. But that's an internal issue. The reality is we're all the same people. We all come from the same tribe. And the fact that we accumulated or acquired or picked up different cultural, traditional practices during our time in the diaspora, it's cool for us, but it's used from the outside as a way to split us up, divide us, and to try not only delegitimize, but erase our history. See, when you say Jews or Ashkenazi Jews or Khazar converts, then you're saying my history going all the way back to King David is cut off. That I can't claim and share in that history like all the other quote-unquote real Jews. And that's wrong. That's wrong because we all share in that history. Okay, we all share in the history of King David and King Solomon and our fathers before that. And to try and divide me and every other Ashkenazi Jew from that history is just wrong.
Mhm.
It's wrong, and it's something I believe needs to be fought back
Right.
against. I get that that's not your primary purpose for being here. That's why I'm not screaming at you, hey, you should be doing X, Y, and Z. That's why I jump on here from time to time to fight back against this nonsense,
Mhm.
because we need to stay united as a people, and we need to stay united in our acceptance of our own history
Mhm.
and our traditions and our cultures. And people like that Maccabee clown who goes on every Jewish person's live with the same nonsense, there needs to be pushback so the people in the comment sections don't go,
I
hey,
agree.
this guy's making a lot of sense. You're not a real Jew.
I agree.
It's just wrong.
That we have different tactics. I really try to change them. I mean, it's more a macro, micro issue. I try to change the ideology. It's like Black Hebrews. I don't try to argue that the original Jews were black or white. I try to get them to acknowledge that it doesn't ultimately matter from a religious perspective, that if anyone can become Jewish, that's what destroys their ideology. So there's enough people doing what you do, right? Defending Israel.
But none as well.
But
none as well as me. But none do it as well as I do.
Right. No, I mean, you're very extremely articulate. I mean, I'm a big fan of your work. Okay. But I fight from a different perspective. And for some reason, I'm the only one who does what I do. Right. I get it. This is my style.
And I also think when you start, this is something I've learned from being on TikTok. Not learned, but I've altered my pattern of speech and the way I talk about this issue, because I realize how Christianized even the way Jews speak about our own people. When we start talking about religion, we have now accepted the Christian idea of faith and worship around a God that Christians put on the world as part of their expansionist policy. So I don't even talk like that anymore. People will come up on my lives, or I'll be on a live and say, well, isn't Judaism a religion? No, it is actually not a religion. That's nonsense. That's a Christian point of view.
I disagree.
Jews are from the tribe of Judah.
All right.
And the cultural practices that we've had for thousands of years is what Christians call religion. But what we call it, or should be calling it, is culture. Okay, if you could take a time machine and go back to the time of King David and walk up to King David and go, hey, King David, what religion did you practice? He would have no idea what you're talking about, because there was no concept of religion. It was simply the cultural practices of the Yehudi, from the people from the tribe of Judah. And so even when we talk about religion and separate religion from ethnicity and all that, we're playing into this Christian narrative of religiosity that isn't or wasn't actually a part of our people's history. The fact of the matter is, you, me, Alibaba, Chaim over, or Reuben, or I can't see his name because I'm driving, Ruvain over here, we are all the same. We come from the tribe of Judah. And we have cultural practices that are tied to our membership to that tribe. Now, we don't all practice culturally the same way or traditionally the same way, but that's not the point. The point is, it's not religion, it's culture.
So that's
only part of our people.
So that's only when you separate religion from God does it in some way remain a cultural aspect or an ethnicity. Right when you involve God into the mix, a God that doesn't distinguish between bloodline, that's when it becomes a religion. It's not just a religion, it's a universal religion. It may be partially in ethnicity because there's a legal and a cultural aspect to it. However, you could be legally Jewish and culturally Jewish and mean nothing to God. And you could be a complete foreigner and be in a covenant with God, meaning an agreement with God that you're going to keep his law even though you're not halakhically Jewish. So there's an ethnic component to our people. But our belief system is just a religion. I mean, it becomes a religion by the simple fact that anyone could buy into it. There are many people who lived in the land of Israel who didn't even believe in God, who fought against the idea of God. Like during the time of the Maccabees, there were Israelites who decircumcised themselves, but they were culturally Jewish.
Right.
They're part of my religion or my people in any way. No, I mean, Karl Marx, Trotsky, Larry David.
They were part of your tribe. They were part of your tribe.
Oh, but the tribe has nothing to do with the religion.
Take the cultural practices tied to that tribe and practice them correctly.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
So when you separate culture from God, that's okay. Anything could be.
Not at all. No. Part of our culture is God. That's part of the culture. What Christians today call religion It is just, God is part of being a Jew, period. The fact that some people separate it or don't follow the tenets of God is irrelevant. Okay? You cannot delink God from the Jews. You cannot, right?
The vast majority of Jews don't believe in God, right?
So, say that again, sorry?
The vast majority of Jews do not believe in God.
Fair enough. I understand. But the understanding of being a part of our tribe, right? It's a three-legged stool. Our tribe is a three-legged stool. God, Torah, Israel. The fact that some members of the tribe don't accept that, call it triune, if you would like, doesn't take away from the culture. It takes away from them, right? It doesn't take away from our understanding of our relationship with God, Torah, and Israel. It takes away from the people who don't accept that as a integral and intertwined aspect of our history and our people.
Okay. So I disagree.
So
I'll tell you why.
Okay, that's fair.
The notion of God, Torah, Israel is a cry made famous by the conservative movement. And when they talk about Israel, they talk about the people of Israel. Now, I can embrace that notion if it's God, Torah, and the land of Israel. And the people who are allowed to inhabit that lands are people who are part of Israel, but because they inhabit the land of Israel, not because they're genetically descended to Moses or Abraham. So it still goes back to an ideology. It goes back to a philosophy. As a matter of fact, Christianity was in some way formulated very similar to how Judaism was. It's not a coincidence that the reason Jesus had 12 disciples was because they were 12 tribes of Israel. Now, Christianity, to a certain extent, could have also been identified as some cultural phenomenon that existed in Judah. And because when the apostles were sent all over the world, they established churches because they had direct contact with Jesus to some extent. So how can they proudly identify themselves as a religion, but us, like we, that want to in some way tie culture, ethnicity, and pedigree to our relationship with God?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't happen to agree, and I don't agree with your comment about the apostles. They had no contact with Jesus. That's all nonsense.
No, as part of their religion, and this is their religion. I mean, like, we can't prove that Moses existed either, you know? I'm just trying to be honest here.
Right, no, 100%. No, I agree with you 100%. All right, well, that's all I wanted to jump in and say. I got to go drop off my daughter practice. Have a good hog. Talk to y'all later.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Best. Love you, brother.
Thank you. Likewise. Someone's asking if I'm Messianic. No, I'm not Messianic.
Thank you. Hey.
I'm not Messianic. Hold on. Someone else wants to hop in. No, but the reason Jesus had 12 apostles / disciples.
In order to get to a position of authority.
Hold on. I mean, someone jumped the gun there.
Hey, what up?
Hi. Welcome.
Hey, so listen, is the Pima Indians, is that a religion?
The Pima Indians. I don't know anything about them, but I don't know anything about them.
Navajo, is that a religion?
That's a tribe.
Okay, Cherokee.
That's also a tribe.
Yazdiri.
These are tribes. I mean, get to your point.
Okay, Druze.
But do these have a religion or a belief system?
Every single one of them has a religious practice that's tied to their tribe.
Okay, so in their narrative, is there any instance of an outsider, by practicing the belief system of their tribe, them actually becoming Navajo, like Blackfoot?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know how all their ethnicities are. I know that.
Oh, so why'd you bring it up? Why'd you bring it up? I mean, if you don't know how it really functions.
No, listen, I don't know how the rules of their specific ethnicities are and how they take in converts.
To answer your question, tribes do exist.
There's plenty of stories about First Nation Americans taking in converts.
To answer your question, tribes do exist. Okay.
Okay, so we're a tribe. I don't understand how you don't understand that.
If you want to say that we're a tribe essentially made up of belief and practice, I have no issue with that statement. But to in some way limit it to pedigree, what?
Experience. A common experience of our ethnicity, our practiced ethnicity. The religion that's assigned to us that we might have carried for the last 3,000 years, that's it. We came first.
Okay, first of all, no religion was assigned to anyone. Every every
is the Pima Indian and Navajo Indians, is that a religion?
No. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Both of them have existing First Nation spiritual practices and individual beliefs on what God might be, God is. There is no difference between our ethnicity.
There's a big
and
difference.
Any other First Nations people.
Because we were called to be a nation unlike every other nation by the simple fact that someone from another nation.
Our writings are so old.
That's the difference. Hold on. That's a difference.
Established folklore and origins myth. That's one of the most,
that's a difference.
Dug through in semantic origins myths on the planet from the Iron Age. Just because we've documented that and kept it, preserved it, doesn't change the fact that we as Jews are an individual, unique ethnicity with a unique language that practice unique traditions and folklores. And
what does that have to do with the religion?
We're 100% an ethnicity, which is why
I didn't deny that.
Jew and not believe in God.
Oh my gosh. I didn't deny that the Jewish people as they exist today are an ethnicity. Okay. However, Judaism is a religion.
No. Religion is something the Christians and Muslims do, my man. Religion, you have to believe in a God, right? So you have to believe in a God if you want to be a Muslim. You have to believe in a God if you want to be a Christian. If you decide that you're no longer believing in God, you can't be a Christian and not believe in God. And same thing with Islam.
And you have to believe in God in order to be part of Judaism.
No. Judaism is the spiritual practices of the Jews.
Gosh,
Asher, let me ask.
Right, go ahead.
What if somebody who is from Jewish tribe converts to Islam or Christianity? Are they still from Jewish tribe?
So you're going to ask me a question that's pretty hard. It's, you're asking me how to build a watch, right? So, no. Fundamentally, we have a door that they can come back to our tribe. And then there's, halakhic laws revolving around that. But if they go on and have children with a non-Jew, now their lineage is done. And I think we'll take back a great-grandma. But we have rules. And if you convert to another religion, you're no longer in our ethnicity.
But we have to be logically consistent, right? If you apply this to the other religion, you should apply that to atheism as well.
Look, I don't. I'm not here to debate religion.
No. I'm saying that we have to apply that across the board, right? We have to be logically consistent. I'm not saying that he is an atheist. I'm talking in general.
So you're saying that because somebody in our ethnicity decides not to practice our spiritual practices that are tied to our ethnicity, they're no longer part of our ethnicity?
Well, I personally consider atheism a belief system. I'm not going to claim it's a religion because we're also saying that Judaism is not religion. So I'm applying same standards to it.
Guys, we're playing with words here. Okay. They're making a distinction, or he's...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Asher. I keep cutting you off.
No problem. You're making a distinction between Jewish people and Judaism, the religion, or you're failing to make that distinction. Okay.
The distinction is
okay. So the Torah
so Christianized and Islamized.
All right.
Because of
hold on.
Colonialism.
Okay.
Hold on. Find the word called religion, but that doesn't describe what we are.
Okay.
It doesn't describe who we are.
So what does karet mean in Hebrew? To be cut off. I'm going to just translate that. I don't want to put you on the spot. So the word karet means to be cut off. Why don't you look up the word, how many times it appears in Torah? Hundreds. I'll give you the answer. It says that if a Jew or an Israelite does such and such, he shall be cut off from his people. So this idea of being genetically in a people that are connected, that's connected to God or religion, it doesn't exist in the Torah. Meaning, only because you were born of a Jewish mother doesn't mean that you're important to God in any way, right? Unless you keep God's commandments. So
that's a pretty orthodox take, but I didn't say nothing about DNA. I said ethnicity. Ethnicity and DNA.
Oh, but ethnicity is not in the Torah.
Except for the fact
ethnicity is not in the Torah, correct?
That somebody in the tribe will pass down their DNA.
But what does that have to do with religion? Okay, what does that have to do with Judaism? Isn't Judaism
is the spiritual practice of the Jewish people?
It has nothing to do with spiritual, right?
What do you think spiritual means?
Well, keeping Shabbat is not a spiritual matter; it's a practical matter.
Of course it is. What does spiritual mean?
Well, The term doesn't appear in the Torah, by the way.
Well, fine, that's fine. But
Yeah,
those
so then,
terms
I mean,
appear
just
in
like the
English,
word
they have
religion,
meanings, and the meaning of taking keeping religious practices or religious
the word spiritual is not a Hebrew word, by the way.
Spiritual. It's all spiritual.
It's a modern Hebrew word. It's not a biblical Hebrew word.
Fine.
The way you prove your belief in God is by action.
Religion, you're gonna beat me, right? You've studied.
No, I'm just
far
trying.
more halakha than I've studied.
This has nothing to do with
I'm not
halacha.
speaking about religion.
Okay, this
I'm
has nothing to do with
talking about
halacha.
ethnicity.
Here, look, I'm not disagreeing that the Jewish people or any group nowadays could be classified in ethnicity. However, Judaism, the belief system that the religious people in Israel or Torah keepers in Israel belong to, that has nothing to do with the ethnicity. As a matter of fact, God told Moses that I'm going to wipe all these people out and start fresh with you. He didn't care who their mother happens to be. So yes, Israel could be an ethnicity, okay? An ethnicity that actually accepts converts. So what's the big deal? The religion is separate because the religion could exist without Israel or without physical
you're
Israel.
assigning religion to us and it doesn't belong.
You're playing with words. Who cares what you call it? All right, so in Hebrew, they call it emunah. You ever a problem with that word?
I don't know. I can't speak Hebrew, Asher.
All right, it means a faith, like a faith system or a belief system.
Spiritual practice.
Whatever, bro. I mean, it doesn't, only because you're born. As a matter of fact, according to Jewish law, I mean, for people to know out there, according to Jewish law, if you convert to Christianity, you're still halachically Jewish. That doesn't mean that you're in any religion. That just means that if you lived in the land of Israel, that the Sanhedrin could do away with you. And I don't want to use the wrong words and get this thing shut down, right? But that is how they classified you as a citizen and liable for punishments from the court because you happen to have a Jewish mother. That doesn't mean that you're important to God in any way. That doesn't mean you're in a covenant with God in any way. Like I said, I think the last poll taken was that 54% of people who are born ethnically Jewish identify as atheists. 54%, right? That does not include agnostics and just people who don't affiliate. So this idea that Judaism is essentially a religion, right? Because what are you going to classify it? Christians do the same thing. Christians say, I don't have a religion, I have a relationship. Everyone does the same thing just because they want to stand out.
I just classified it for you.
Huh?
I just classified it.
You gave me your
Judaism
definition.
Is the spiritual practice of the Jewish people.
That's your classification.
Only Jews can practice Judaism.
That's actually not true. That's actually not true.
It is true. Someone can be the. They can know Akiva and they can study and they can know all the things of Judaism and they can wake up, say Modéani, they can do every single thing of Judaism. And if they're not doing it in our community, and if they're not welcomed as Jews in our community, they're not Jews. And they're not, Judaism is a communal.
Yeah, but that's not what you said.
Practice of the Jewish people.
You said only Jews could keep Judaism. That's a statement you said. Okay, so a Gentile could technically keep all the aspects of our religion, all of Jewish law, right?
And they're not practicing Judaism.
Yeah, but you said only Jews. No, what do you mean? The practice of Judaism is keeping 613 commandments.
No. The practice of Judaism is a Jew following our grandfathers.
No, that's not true.
Okay, let's clarify it. You cannot practice it alone. It has to be practiced as a community.
Why?
Because majority of our commandments are towards other people and not towards our relationship to God.
Oh, but you could do it with Gentiles as well.
Correct, but they have to form a community.
Wait. I mean, can you give me an example?
Majority of what we do is how we act towards each other and how we live as a nation, not about what we do to God, right? That's majority of Torah is how to interact with other people around you.
So the vast majority of Jews aren't keeping Torah properly because we're not back in the land of Israel.
Besides the point. The focus of the Judaism is not a relationship between the man and a God, but between man and a man. Right.
Well, right.
It's an instructions on how to build a nation.
Half of them.
Build relationship with God.
I mean, half of the commandments are, mitzvot ben adam lechavero and mitzvot ben adam lemakom, like between God and man and between man and God. I mean, even the 10 statements are, split up like this. It's half and half. But a Gentile who wanted to keep the commandments and, V'afta l'orecha kamocha would still apply to him, right? Taking care of decent people in his environment as much as it would apply to a Jew taking care of another Jew. So
okay, but he's not practicing Judaism.
Why not?
Because he's not a Jew.
Okay.
Again, you
the way you practice Judaism properly.
I accept you as a Jew. Because I mean, I've never met your rabbis. You know that
doesn't matter.
I don't know anything, but I accept you as a Jew because clearly you're a Jew, right?
That's so.
That's why I accept you as a Jew.
All right.
But if you weren't a Jew and you still knew all the knowledge you know, but you were a Christian, you wouldn't be practicing Judaism.
Okay.
And if you said you were, I'd be offended, and I'd tell you to stop.
So let's discuss this from a biblical perspective. How did the people who stood on Mount Sinai? How did they enter a covenant with God?
Look.
No, just answer the question. Just answer the question.
They all obviously everybody at the mountain converted.
No. How did they do it? By accepting the commandments upon themselves. That's what made them Israel. So a Gentile who, for some reason,
Israel. We don't know.
No.
Moses never gave us. Moses never gave us the name of whatever religion.
Jose. That's actually not true. It said very clearly, even in the opinion of the sages, that a minority of the people that stood in Mount Sinai were ethnic Hebrews, descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the majority were the Erefrav, which is the mixed multitude.
Okay, I mean, listen. Again, I'm not going to get into a debate about our origins myths that are written down in the book. I'm talking about ethnicity.
Yeah, but you're going to make these statements. You have to come better equipped.
No, there's multiple places in the Torah specifically that tells you about conversion, like in the Torah itself. Even in Exodus, where it tells you how somebody will bring sacrifice for Pesach, it says to do, yeah.
I don't think his opinion is that you can't convert. His opinion is that until you convert, you're considered a Gentile, and if you're doing any mitzvot, it doesn't count. That's what his opinion is.
Yeah. 100%. But I'm here to talk about ethnicity. The academic term ethnicity is an academic word for tribe. And if you're not going to say that the Navajo is a religion, or the Pima, or any First Nations, or any indigenous people from Australia, if you're not going to call them a religion, then we're not a religion either, because we are the same thing as every single other ethno-religion on the planet.
Okay, so the vast majority of ethnicities on this planet, I mean, I think ethnicity, excluding the notion of a race, is typically made up of a different group of people. Like being Italian is an ethnicity, but Italians are mixtures. I mean, from Southern Italians who have darker skin to Northern Italians.
Yeah, they're not an ethno-religion because...
Oh, wait. See, now you're saying ethno-religion. Like first you said ethnicity means that you're tied to some tribe, which is not true. Okay, I mean, anything could be an ethnicity. I said
the academic term for ethnicity is, and I gave you the definition for what the academic term ethnicity is: a people with a shared experience, an individual language that's unique and
you didn't say this, by the way. I mean, you didn't say this. You said that they were tied to a tribe, a shared experience. Absolutely, I agree with. Okay.
We are called an ethno-religion because we have a specific spiritual, religious practice tied to our ethnicity.
That's actually not true, because the vast majority of Jews do not even practice Judaism, and they're the ones who established the notion of Jews being an ethnicity.
Jews, they're still circumcised. 99% of them.
That's actually not true.
Huh?
What are you talking about? The Reform movement said circumcision is optional.
No. Don't bring.
99% of Jews are circumcised. I mean, come on, man.
Not even 100, maybe 200 years old.
I don't know.
Bring them up.
Yes, I think this argument is like making our religion look backward and primitive and bigoted, right? Like
I'm not okay. I don't mind. Listen, I
do mind.
Listen,
I do
people
mind.
Try to Euro wash my people every single day, and they try to put us into some kind of religious category.
But it's interesting how you consider your people, even people who don't believe.
And I'm not going to allow it. I'm not going to allow it to happen. Okay. All right.
It's problematic that the people you claim as your people.
Being problematic.
Oh my gosh. All right, man.
No, I'm not trying to get on your.
All right. I'm going to speak because the guy's not allowing me to talk. The problem I have is that he's limiting his people to flesh and blood, right? Like that's important. It doesn't matter. Flesh and blood does not matter. Like the idea that he's not going to stand, I guess, idly by while while someone says something negatively about people he happens to be related to, I don't give a crap who I happen to be related to, right? I mean, I don't care. I mean, that by simple fact that I converted, it shows that I had to go through a lot to get where I am now, and then people are still, like mocking, my whole existence. It's who you want to identify with. Blood means absolutely nothing. Throughout Jewish history, the vast majority of Jews actually fought against the existence of God. Do you think God cared? God said that Israel will be my Am Segulah, my treasured people, only if they keep my commandments. He said that there were inhabitants in the land of Israel before Israel arrived, and he kicked them out because they wouldn't keep the commandments that were tied to the land. This idea that God ultimately cares about the Jewish people. The land of Israel doesn't belong to Jews either. The land of Israel belongs to anyone who keeps Torah. That's what it says. God says that this is my land and you're workers in my land. But the land itself, you're entering a land that devours its inhabitants. It will spit you out. So this idea that I'm not denying that the Jewish people as they exist today are an ethnicity. I'm not denying that. What I am denying is that Judaism is in some way connected to that ethnicity. Not necessarily, the vast majority of people of this ethnicity do not even practice Judaism. I would say that there's a higher percentage of people who converted to Judaism, okay, within the religious Jewish camp nowadays than people who are in some way tied to some pedigree going back to Abraham. Okay, and it doesn't bother me because I don't have like a racial axe to grind here. This idea that people fight, tooth and nail, I mean, to in some way tie themselves.
Wait, Rob, you know what I think it is? I think it's just that it's a mix between what the Torah and the Mishnah says versus this concept called a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. I think that's where the really headbutting begins, because a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. It doesn't matter what you believe. If you're part of the ethnicity, it is what it is. Versus people in the Torah and obviously in ancient times, they would quite easily, say you're dead to them if you wasn't keeping Torah. Like they wouldn't even consider you a part of a tribe. Goodbye, whatever.
Yeah, but this what bothers me is we have different standards for somebody who converts to a different religion out of Judaism versus somebody who just completely abandons God and starts spouting and goes and becomes militant atheist. And that's somehow still okay, and they can still claim to be Jewish. But if somebody converts to a different religion, they're instantly cut off. And we have to be logically consistent. If we're gonna do that, that should apply everywhere, right, and not just in certain instances.
Yeah. Well, it's because they have a chip on their shoulder regarding Christians. So according to Jewish law, if someone converts to idolatry, and I'm not even. I don't consider Messianic Jews idolaters, right? But if they consider idolaters, if they convert to some sort of idolatrous belief system after they convert, or even if they were born from a Jewish mother, it says they're still Jewish. They're legally still Jewish. Legally, that doesn't mean that they're spiritually Jewish. The problem is Chabad and groups like Chabad that in some way, with them, the lines get crossed. There's no distinction between being religiously Jewish and ethnically Jewish, and this is what Alibaba is talking about. They're the ones who push the statement a Jew is a Jew is a Jew more than anyone else, and it's not true. A Jew who's not religious is not practicing Judaism. He may be part of the ethnicity, but the ethnicity has nothing to do with God, which is why you shouldn't call it an ethno-religion, because the religious part, assuming you're including God in that religious part, has nothing to do with the ethnicity. That means if you were born of a Jewish mother and you don't keep God's commandments, or essentially you're an unethical person, you have no connection to God at all. So the religious part has nothing to do with you. So the problem is religious people end up suffering for the sins of the secular from a practical perspective, not from a spiritual one. Meaning, even during World War II, when the bad guys over there, I don't want to say it, were in some way looking for people of this tribe to harm because of the fallout of communism, the first people they harmed were those who looked religiously Jewish, not those who blended in. So those who were religiously Jewish didn't care about these left-wing movements. They weren't even political at all in the vast majority of cases, but they were the first ones to be harmed, right? So this is the problem that that occurs when we fail to make a distinction between the secular element and the religious element of our people. And the religious element has to do with belief, right? I mean, this is the difference between a goy and an am. A goy is a nation like almost every other nation. An am, similar to Islam, ummah comes from the same word, am. And no one's gonna say that Islam is an ethno-religion. Am means a people united essentially by belief and practice. That's it. Not blood. Blood is completely insignificant. I think they do that because it makes them sound like they're big defenders of the Jewish people, but there's no merit in that, to just defend the people just because they happen to exist. This notion that because you exist, you deserve is not a biblical notion. Anything that you should be proud of is stuff that you fight and you earn. You know, this idea that I'm Jewish and I'm proud is the stupidest statement I ever heard. Okay. You should be proud not because you happen to be born something, or I mean, it's equivalent to saying that I'm brown and I'm proud. It's the stupidest statement. You should be proud of your accomplishments and your achievements. You work hard for something, be proud of that. I happen to be born this. Like, where's the pride? I mean, it makes us look stupid. You know. Anyways,
it's, you know, if you look even historically, right? Just 200 years ago, the parents said Shiva for somebody, regardless whether they just dropped religion and became secular or they converted to different religion. They didn't care. It was, you know, you were cut off. You were cut off. It didn't matter for what reason.
You know, it's Kabbalah.
As long as you went off the derech, you went off the derech.
Kabbalah changed the whole game. As a matter of fact, it was Kabbalah that gave birth to the Haskalah. So the Haskalah was the Jewish Enlightenment movement in Europe. And this is where people like Shalom Aleichem, the author of like Fiddler on the Roof, came from, and Jewish communism essentially came from. There were people who ceased believing in God in Europe, and they started to write poetry in Yiddish, right? But secular poetry, anti-religious poetry. Why? Because the mystics arose and they started telling people that what makes you Jewish is not how you behave or what you believe, but the soul within you. So they thought, why do I have to distinguish myself by my actions now? I'm special because I exist, right? I have a Yiddish and a Shama, I have a Pintel Yid, all these destructive ideas. So they said, if this is what makes me special, why do I have to keep mitzvahs? And this is where the notion of a secular Jew came from. Because like you said, the parents would sit Shiva when their son converted to Christianity or dropped God because they didn't consider them. There was no redeemable quality in that person. But suddenly now we have redeemable qualities just because someone happens to have, you know, I mean, some chromosome, tying him to Abraham. It's so stupid. It's so primitive. It makes us look bad, right? And not to mention, it's not true. It's not, I mean, from a Torah perspective, the notion of lekaret, when you're cut off from your people, because whatever, I mean, anything that's chayav kares, like eating chametz on Pesach, most of the of the punishments are public decoration, like desecrations of God's law, public. You know, like eating chametz on Pesach publicly means that you're spitting on the whole commandment.
You know, the only thing I disagree with you on is Shalom Aleichem. That's the only connection I had to Judaism as a kid, because I didn't know anything about being Jewish except for what I read in his books. You know, like Fiddler on the Roof and Motel are the only things that I knew about Jews as a kid, and from reading his books. So I actually think he contributed to
That's
something.
Fine. No, there's many people who come to Judaism from Christianity, right? I mean, and I'm not going to say lahavdil here. It's just as I mean, the connection is like a good one, I think. Fine.
Rob, there's like people that want to come up.
Yeah, let Renzi come. She actually has.
No, there's no one here waiting. I mean, I don't see any. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it didn't come up on my thing.
Hi.
Oh, is that Renzi? Hi, welcome.
Just one issue with what you just said, that Kabbalah led to the Haskalah.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if that's a defensible position. Mysticism and the development of mysticism was completely antithetical to the Jewish to any notion of enlightenment. Like, you don't find, especially Kabbalistic ideas of that time period. I mean, in any like rationalist in the formation of Judaism, it was a complete like reaction. It wasn't a, you could argue that. You could argue that Kabbalah led to the Haskalah because it was a reaction. There was that element of things. There was, but not.
Okay, hold on.
I mean,
let me ask you one question.
Tenuous.
Hold on, let me ask you a question.
What's that?
So during the time of the Haskalah, right? If the Haskalah would have taken place in the 10th century, would these people still be considered Jewish?
No, but the
only post Kabbalah
place in the 10th century though.
Right. But you would have to acknowledge that only post Kabbalah could these individuals still be considered Jewish.
Well, the Haskalah was an internalization of like European, philosophical ideals in Judaism. And actually, it's funny that it led to the loss of faith. Kabbalah was I mean, if you look at and then Kabbalah and then Hasidus, it was a democratization of a lot of these more esoteric concepts, which existed for not just since Kabbalah. I mean, it was for a long period of time. The esoteric dimension of Torah, it's been along for a while. I mean, okay, so that's not exactly what I wanted to come up here and say. It's just I'm nitpicking one little problem I had with it, because I really don't see how one could arrive there. My contention is, and I don't. I'm not going to argue halacha if I can try to. I'm not as educated as I should be in halacha, and I'm not. But my question is, like, you get a lot of Gentiles that practice Jewish. They'll have a seder. They'll keep a lot. Some of them keep 613 commandments. I've talked to a lot of Messianic Jews. I've been to a Messianic bar mitzvah. I've interacted with a lot of these people. What is that? I don't understand. Like, people are doing it, so they're not Jewish. So what? Just let them do it. If you think they'd benefit from keeping the commandments, so be it. I mean, the Jewish perspective is, the rabbinic Jewish perspective, that they don't really have to. They don't, they don't have to do it. Jews are commanded to follow the mitzvot. So if people are doing it, people want to keep the commandments in the Torah. I mean, there's
I agree.
Jews,
I agree.
Karaites, Christians, Muslims that follow Jewish law. So, okay, does it make them Jewish? I mean, not according to mainstream rabbinic Judaism.
Don't follow Jewish law.
No, I'm saying, but you get these people that do. You get these Messianic Jews that decide to follow Jewish law, and you get these, not these Gentiles, these people of other faiths that decide to follow Jewish law, and so so it's fine. There's no problem.
Yeah, it's fine.
Really, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So another question.
Is that a question? I agree with you.
So my issue is the subtitle, Judaism is better. Okay, you can think that. I mean, I would as a Jewish person who grew up atheist, found religion, I would say there's merit to like a lot of different things, but you can become Jewish. I don't, according to the mainstream in Judaism, the mainstream rabbinic tradition, it's not like, if you follow Judaism you can become Jewish. Like, that's not the opinion. I mean, you can have that opinion.
What are you talking about?
But
I mean, what's inaccurate about it?
It's just not the opinion that Jews around the world follow. I mean, it's
you can't become Jewish?
What's that?
Are you saying that one cannot become Jewish?
No, you can become Jewish. I'm saying,
so what's the issue?
The suggestion is what's that?
What's the issue then? I mean, what's the issue with me saying yes and you can become Jewish? I.e., if you wanted to.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Maybe I'm not being clear. Judaism is better. You can whatever. I wouldn't go on a live stream on TikTok and say that, but okay.
Why not?
And you can become Jewish.
Okay, hold on.
I don't know. It just.
So what religion do you belong to?
I'm Jewish.
No. I mean, you could be ethnically Jewish, but what religion do you practice?
I practice Judaism.
Okay, so
I practice rabbinic Judaism.
Okay. So why didn't you practice Islam?
Sorry?
Why don't you practice Islam?
Because I'm not Muslim. I've never spoken the words that you need to say to become Muslim.
Right. Yeah, but a Jewish person could convert to Islam. So the reason you remain Jewish is because you believe that you're in a better belief system than that one.
I would say, and this is, I guess, kind of this is a more sociological position, is because I was raised without religion, raised in a secular household. Maybe my tethers to, and this has to also do with like, minhag and these things, like my tethers to my peoplehood when I found faith are all tethered in the ethnic experience of Judaism. So when you put these very strong lines, like, okay, this is secular, this is cultural, this is religious, you're kind of blurring the lines, because Yiddish, the language itself, is a major mode of expression.
So what you're saying,
Jews across the world. What
you're saying that if you would have been born from Muslim parents, you'd probably be a proud Muslim today.
No, but look, sorry, like Muslims, they're not apologetic, and they're not ashamed to say that Islam is the best religion. Christians are not apologetic or ashamed to say that Christianity is the best religion. Why should we as Jews be ashamed to say the same thing?
No, I don't have a problem with. I really don't have a problem with that statement. I love Judaism. I think it's philosophically, it's
it's better, right?
In my personal experience, it allows me to connect to metaphysical ideas in a way that is more substantial than if I was a practicing Christian or Muslim. But I'm saying that's because the what I was raised with, my ethnic ties to my culture are all like, they all have resonance in the religion. So it's easy for me to come to Judaism.
Do you feel
it was self-discovery. That's what I'm saying. If I became Muslim, that would be me adopting the traditions and practice of another people. But because I was already Jewish, I was born Jewish, and I had this knowledge of Judaism from being in a Jewish community and, whatever, being...
So two questions.
It's about that resonance. Do you see what I'm saying?
Would you believe that Torah observance is better than non-Torah observance? And what do you think God thinks about that?
Yes, I believe that Torah observance. I believe that Jews are better off with Torah. I don't think that's, but at the same time, my parents, I have a brother. They're not religious. I'm not going to force them.
No, it has nothing to do with forcing. No, wait, hold on. We're not forcing anyone to do anything here. But the simple fact that you believe that observing the Torah is better than not observing the Torah, and there's many ethical commands in the Torah. I would say around half the commands in the Torah are ethical. So if you want to inhabit a planet with a bunch of people who in some way don't keep the Torah because you're telling them that they shouldn't keep the Torah because it's only for Jews. How do you feel about God himself, who in some way pleads with the people on the mountain to choose life, to choose this belief system? It seems that God believes it's better. You believe it's better to keep it as well. What's wrong with me saying that Judaism is not the best? That's not the statement I'm making. I'm not saying that I don't believe it. I'm just saying that Judaism is better. Why should we be ashamed of that statement?
I'm not arguing against that. All I said is that I wouldn't necessarily make that argument because I just see it a different way. But I'm not. If you want to claim that, that's fine.
I'm saying that you believe it as well.
It's a great religion.
Hold on. I'm saying you believe it as well.
Sorry?
You believe it as well, and you're just not being honest about it.
I didn't say whether I believed it. I said I wouldn't necessarily argue that. My issue begins at the second statement that you can become Jewish. Okay, yes, you can become Jewish, but the implication is you follow 613 commandments and you're Jewish, like a lot of abracadabra. But it's exactly so. So I'm saying keep the commandments if you want to. Great, you can do that. Like I said, I know a lot of Christian people believe that Yoshki is Mashiach, and they keep all 613 commandments. Okay, so be it. I'm saying, but that doesn't necessarily make you Jewish because because
you have to convert. You have to go through a formal conversion program in order to be Jewish.
Right. Yes. So it's. I'm saying this is not. I'm saying okay. If I hate to make this argument, but if you start a live stream and you put these things up there and you get a bunch of Jewish people coming up and saying, I see a different way. I mean, there's a level of introspection you need to have and be like, like maybe the accepted majority in Judaism, in Jewish observance in halakhic Judaism has this position that we don't go and,
No, I know.
and convert people.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know what's the thing with that? We do not. Jews are not supposed to accept something just because the majority do it. It has to be found in the source text, or it has to be found in the Torah. Because, for example, let me give you a quick example.
But
Right now, today,
even easier.
One second.
Sorry.
Wait, 1 second. Let me just
Okay,
say this way. Right now, the accepted opinion, right, of majority Jews is that you go to, like, let's just say a Gentile comes to convert, you got to turn him away 3 times, then you got to make him jump hoops and do backflips through hoops for like a year, 2, 5, 10, then and they got to pay some money, and then you give them a kosher conversion, yada yada yada. Versus what the Mishnah says in the source text is that when a Gentile comes to convert, it doesn't say you're supposed to turn them away. The opposite. It says you bring them in with sweet words, and you do not tell him too much about the harsh mitzvot, as to not lead him back into his bad path. And then, if it's a male, snip, 3 weeks later, he's the Jew already, and you teach him when he's in the mikvah getting dipped, some of the small mitzvot and some of the large mitzvot. So there has to be a distinction made between what the source text says and what is practice as a whole. There's a lot of time that what's being practiced by the majority is incorrect via the source text.
Yeah, but even simpler right now. Right now you have right here. You have Rabbi Asher. You have me and Alibaba. So you got majority are pro and you're against. So you should go with majority.
Hold on. So maybe I'm misunderstanding the argument that you're posing, because I would. Maybe you know, this is a stretch, but it feels like it's a little bit facetious. This is I feel like, you know, this you're aware this is not something that very commonly happens. Judaism is better, and, you know, advertising, like, you don't see that very often in Jewish.
Correct.
So maybe
you're right. You're right about that. Well done. I want to tell you when you're right. You're correct about this. Yeah. No, I'm just saying. I agree with you that it's typically not done. It's almost never done. But I attribute that to a ghettoized form of Judaism, meaning this is what we picked up in the exile. Our host countries didn't allow us to proselytize for so long that we think it's part of our religion. We can't point to anywhere in the Talmud, anywhere in the Torah that it tells us to do it, but we just know that we don't do it. It's true. We haven't done it for 2,000 years. We shouldn't be so shocked, you know. And the reason I put it out there so blatantly, because we need to have this discussion. And I know that you're going to go back and ask your rabbi and say, look, I heard about this. Is it true that according to Jewish law, it's not prohibited? And if he's knowledgeable, I mean, you'll say it's true. It's not prohibited. We just don't do it. There's a lot of things.
You also have to understand that many Orthodox communities took on this tradition because a lot of people back in the day were converting for the wrong things, for marriage, for it was a wrong intention. So a lot of Jews became scared with the interfaith marrying or stuff like that, and that's why they made it this way.
Yeah, no, the Syrians, I mean, specifically did it like that. I mean, they're the only group that I know.
I mean, yeah, but no rabbi accepts a conversion for marriage, except.
Well, that's not true. That's actually not true.
Secular or
the Rabbi Unterman. I mean, there's the vast majority of people who convert to Judaism nowadays convert for marriage. They just say they don't to discourage people, you know. But there's many rabbis who, I mean, many people who converted for marriage. I mean, it's not. Yeah. It's very common.
I mean, I don't personally, but.
Oh, you're Syrian. I mean, most Syrians don't convert anybody, right? But I mean, in the Ashkenaz.
I mean, we don't convert people. We accept them in the community.
That's not true.
But we don't.
That's not true.
Marriages.
I mean,
our rabbis don't do marriages.
No.
I mean, you're telling me we've had a lot of converts work in our schools and they've been part of our.
That's rare, then. I mean, there's this.
They've been part of our communities.
The vast majority.
They just don't do the marriages.
So the vast majority of Syrian communities, when you walk into their synagogue, it says converts will not be given any honors. A convert will not get an aliyah. He can't daven for the Yomid. He's not accepted as a Jew in their community. I mean, this notion that they're accepted, we just don't perform marriages, it's not true. It's not true.
And so, is that so? Do you? I'm guessing you don't agree with that. You think that they should change their custom? Is that what it is, or?
Yes.
I don't agree with it at all either.
Yes.
I don't agree with it, and I'm Syrian.
So the rabbi disagrees.
Correct.
I just wanted to clarify your opinion on that.
I'll tell you the history of it.
That's a Torah violation, of course.
Right.
I should disagree with it.
Right. The Torah says, "Vaftem et the ger," to love the convert. It says, "A ger lo toneh," don't mistreat a convert. This started in Argentina in 1905 by a rabbi named Rabbi Sutton, because the guys didn't want to marry Jewish girls. They were getting regular Argentinian girls, converting them to Judaism and marrying them. This was creating what we have today, which is called the shidduch crisis. There's too many available religious girls and not enough religious guys to marry them. So he outlawed conversions just so the guys would be forced to marry Jewish girls, and it carried on from there. It's not an old tradition from actual Syria. It started in Argentina in over 100 years ago. So I mean, it was silly when it started, and it's silly that it continues today.
Okay. So I think when I come up here, I was kind of misinterpreting. I assumed that this was kind of a facetious, like, Judaism is better. Everyone, you're envisioning a world where everyone practices Judaism, which in principle I don't have a problem with, but I do have I'm a little bit uneasy about this. So just because I feel like you've made some subtle digs at traditional customs and minhag and different practices in different communities, and so would I be wrong in saying that Kabbalah and these things that kind of emerged later on?
By definition, we wouldn't improve if I didn't in some way take jabs at the silly things that Jews happen to do.
So that's where I have a problem because I feel like that's pretty core to your argument, and I feel like you could make an argument without doing that probably, but okay, so you can argue. You can argue about the historical development of Kabbalah and Jewish philosophy and different kind of modes of expression and just different customs and different regions and minhag and these different things. But you're discounting all of Jewish history. You really are by doing that. Okay, Kabbalah. Kabbalah influences. Forget Hasidic Judaism. Every single. Definitely Ashkenazic. Jewish practice. So how can you discount that? It's like, not to mention some of the most profound.
I'm not discounting Kabbalah.
Judaism.
I'm discounting the notion in Kabbalah that something exists within every Jew called the Jewish soul. There's some pretty notions in Kabbalah, right? I didn't say Kabbalah in general, but I said specifically that Kabbalah is responsible for the invention of the secular Jew. 1,000 years ago, there was no such thing as a secular Jew. A Jew who stopped practicing Judaism wasn't counted as Jewish. He may have still been halachically Jewish, but he wasn't given aliyahs. Nowadays, if you walk into any Chabad with a cell phone and a cigarette on Shabbos, they'll give you an aliyah because they teach a Jew is a Jew is a Jew, which is not actually true. Okay, a Jew who's like in Hebrew is mechalel Shabbat lefarhesia, like they do it in your face, right? Instead of someone who parks 5 blocks down is not supposed to be counted in a minyan, right? But nowadays, because a Jew is a Jew is a Jew, this is what Kabbalah brought to the table. I like notions like reincarnation. It's a sweet idea. I'm not going to say the Torah teaches it, but this is a Kabbalistic notion. I'm not saying everything in Kabbalah is bad, but there's some notions that are destructive.
Okay, so I guess this is my issue, and it's not just about Kabbalah. It's not just about Chabad or you are discounting your argument just by the nature of the argument. You're forced to in this position where you discount every development and adaptation and historical manifestation of Judaism, basically since the destruction of the temple, right?
God forbid. Okay, so let me tell you my rendition on how Judaism actually functions, right? Because I'm a rationalist. I'm a student of Maimonides. So my Jewish outlook is going to differ from, someone who's a student of the Arizal. So according to the way I was taught, Judaism is the 5 books of Moses and halakha / oral law, Jewish law, rabbinic law, right? It's all the same. Now, the end of halakha was the 4th century of the Common Era. This is why the Mishnah is so important to us. If something doesn't appear in the Mishnah and something doesn't appear in Torah, the 5 books of Moses, it's not considered Judaism. It could be part of the Jewish practice. It could be part of the Jewish people, but it's not really the core of our belief system. Now, this is after the destruction of the Second Temple. If you're telling me that only that Jewish experience becomes our religion, right, I would have to disagree with you. right? I mean,
okay, okay. So I'll amend my statement, not since the destruction of the Second Temple, since I guess a period after that. But my so I guess I'll pose this question to you. You're discounting a lot of these more metaphysical, substantial ideas in Kabbalah. Mm-hmm. So would your opinion be that Chabad or Hasidic Jews in general, or whatever, Kabbalists or Ashkenazic mystical Jews, are they practicing a form of idolatry or non-Judaism, or are they? No, they're not.
No, not at all. I'm Ashkenazi, by the way. I go to regular Young Israel and Chabad. I started going to Chabad. Yeah, no. I view them, well, some streams of Kabbalah, right? I mean, have allowed me to embrace Messianic Jews as fellow Jews, because I figure, like, if you believe the Rebbe is Mashiach, it doesn't ultimately matter who you believe Mashiach is, as long as he's not getting you to violate Torah laws. So yeah, they're practicing, Jewish practices, right? There's a lot of things that are Jewish in nature and not necessarily tied to Torah practice, right? And I think a lot of notions tied with the Messiah. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Wait, Rav, I actually have a question to you on that.
Yeah.
Why is it that you accept Messianic Jews as fellow Jews? Because I remember, I think a while back you was having a debate, which I saw part of it. I didn't see the full thing, but you were having a debate with, I think it was like Itzhak Shapira, I think it was, right?
Right.
And in the argument, you even said at one point in the debate that if that is the stance that he believes, like, that does sound kind of like idolatry. But when I was hearing it, that's some of the stuff he was saying is like what I hear from 99% of Messianic Jews in the first place. So why is it that you accept them?
That you have to give me an example, like.
Oh, like statements like Jesus is God himself, and
well, that's not what Messianic Jews believe.
Some of them do.
Messianic Jews believe that Jesus is a Messiah, not a God.
Well, some of them believe. It's like 50-50. It's like 50-50.
It vastly differentiates. Messianic Jews is like
a relative. So listen to this. So there's a lot of Lubavitch people that believe that the Rebbe was a Messiah.
Right.
Do we discount their Judaism?
No, like I said, I don't have a problem with people believing who's the Messiah. Once they start to deify their Messiah, that's where I say Avodat Elohim.
There's some Chabadniks who do that, by the way.
Right.
They literally believe in his ghost in the room, like they praise him.
Some are called
Elotistim. That's what I'm talking about. I would discount them. I have no problem discounting them.
But they're not discounted. But they're not discounted from the Jewish people, though.
Yes, and that's exactly where the hypocrisy begins, because a lot of people do.
What about all these crazies who go to Ukraine for Rosh Hashanah? Praying at the grave. Wait. We're talking about like 6 different things. I'm talking about specifically on deification of an individual as God.
All right, so let me respond.
Those Chabadniks that say, "Oh, the Rebbe is God himself," those Chabadniks, I would definitely say, bro, that's Avodat Elohim. In the same way that I would tell Christians,
I don't know if a Lubavitcher would necessarily make that claim ever.
They do all the time.
That the Rebbe is God himself. There, you think they would say that?
Some do. It's a very small group.
It's the Mashiach.
I believe that he's like an emanation.
Go read about it. It's a big thing. You got to read about it.
All right. So I'll tell you, I didn't always hold this belief, by the way. It sort of grew on me. However, when I debated Yitzhak Shapira, like, I held the belief that if you want to attribute divine qualities to your Messiah, that itself is not necessarily idolatry. It's foolish, it's stupid, but it's not idolatry. So Chabad has a statement. They say that a Rebbe is the Atzmut in a Guf. This is written in a Sikha, like, of the Rebbe. Like, he felt this about his father-in-law. The Atzmut in a Guf means the divine essence in bodily form, which is identical to what appears in the book of Colossians, like about Jesus. Now, that doesn't mean that the vast majority of Chabadniks believe the Rebbe is God. There's a small group, like mainly in Kfar Chabad, which is in this town in Israel, that believe he's God. They're called Elokistim, like versus like Meshachistim, which just believe that he's the Messiah. Okay, so I think the idea is foolish. The truth is, if anyone reads the Torah straight through, it's kind of hard to deny that God sometimes appears to people in human form. Okay, Maimonides disagrees with this. The Rambam will say when that happens, it occurred in a dream. It didn't really happen because God can't limit himself in such a manner. I get that. Okay, however, like if someone just read the Torah straight through, the Pashat, the plain level, and came to that understanding, you're telling me that God is going to consider them an idolater, right? It just sounds problematic. What these Christians are essentially saying, they believe that the God of Israel embodied a man for 33 years. Okay, that's perhaps they can't articulate it in such a manner. This is really what they're saying. Not that they're worshiping, Zeus or some foreign god. They believe that it's the God of Israel, clothed in flesh and blood. It may be a primitive idea from a philosophical perspective because you're limiting God, right? I know the Aristotelian, Platonic, and again, Maimonidean arguments, right? But I can't consider that person an idolater. And it says in Chovot HaLevavot, like in the Duties of the Heart, which is a famous book for Baki Ibn Pechuta. He says that God wouldn't punish anyone who takes statements in the Torah about him literally. Whether it says that God has a hand, God has a foot. The Torah calls God a man. It says Hashem ish milchama, that God is a man of war. That's what it says. I don't believe it, right? I believe that it's hyperbolic, it's poetic, it's symbolic. However, if someone wants to take it literally, I'm going to consider them an idolater. Idolaters, we're not supposed to prolong their life. You know what that means? If they fall into a pit, we're not supposed to help them out. It doesn't make any sense. So I think they're wrong. A Messianic Jew who believes this is wrong. I don't believe they're idolaters or heretics because they're, that's almost like death penalty attached to those two people.
I have to go soon. This is just my ultimate question with this whole line of reasoning is, who is to determine if we don't have this extra dimension of Judaism that I guess you can say developed later on, that's fine. But if we don't have it, we have all these secular Jews. I come from a family of secular Jews. I'm who's to set these these rules? There's no structure. There's no, because this is not the legal status quo in Judaism that Jewish people, if they leave Judaism, if they abandon God, then they become whatever, they're pushed out, they're cut off. That's not the standard. That's not how most Judaism is practiced. You can say it's correct, but it's not. The truth is, it's not how most Judaism is practiced. How are we to set these rules? What if Jews are following what? Jews, what is Judaism? What is the practice of Judaism? You can delimit it. You can say 5 books. It's the Torah, Tanakh, Jewish law, oral law. You can make those determinations, but it's arbitrary because that's your position on it. And
no, it's set in stone
for all of religion.
No, it's set in stone.
But
in terms of
it's set in stone. It's set in stone. But it's set in stone the Torah. But there's people. Karaites argue that Rabbinic Judaism is they make the same exact argument about Rabbinic Judaism that you're making for
right.
It's
Karaite Jews are 1%.
Clear, or maybe I'm not.
So Karaite Jews, trust me, there are more Messianic Jews in the world than Karaite Jews. They're probably less than 0.1% of religious Jews. So it doesn't matter what Karaites happen to believe.
But,
Reform conservative.
Wait, I made that argument earlier, and it was, remember the majoritarian argument. Okay, maybe they're insignificant, but they have been significant. They've been around for a long time. They're very established, and I disagree with that. I would discount their practice because I follow a certain strain of Judaism, and I practice of Judaism that happens to delimit the Jewish people as people of Jews.
Yeah, I'm not speaking in their behalf. I'm speaking in behalf of people who at least identify as Orthodox. Okay, like if someone wants to be like a Hebrew roots or a Karaite or a Samaritan, that's essentially almost a different religion. I'm not speaking in their behalf. However, if you belong to Reform, Conservative, or Orthodox, they all acknowledge at least what what is source material, that whether they want to adhere to it or not. I mean, the Reformed Jews like still keep the same holidays on the same days we do. Why? Because they acknowledge that the rabbis had the authority to establish the calculated calendar, right? Even though like Reform and Conservative may toss out 90% of rabbinic laws, they still acknowledge at one point this was the standard. So, I mean, for normative Judaism, that's the standard.
I see Reform Judaism, and I'm friends with many Reform Jews. I've been to Reform in my lifetime. I've been to Reform services. I see it as the most disrespectful, fundamentally, like just utterly laughing in the face of Hashem.
I agree. I'm just giving you an example.
And if a Reformed Jew is practicing Judaism, then I don't. And if they're Jewish because of their practice, then for me this argument has no.
I'm not saying that they're Jewish because they practice. The vast majority of Reformed Jews don't practice Judaism, but by the simple fact that we keep the holidays on the same day, right? There's actually a movement called the Lunar Sabbath movement, where these people who consider themselves to be Jewish keep the Sabbath on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, different days. The reason I mentioned Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox is because that's the biggest block of the Jewish people today. I'm really just speaking for Orthodox Jews. According to Orthodox Judaism, according to what we consider source material, there's nothing that prohibits us from encouraging other people to become Jewish. Only modern day practice, right? But if it doesn't prohibit it in the Talmud, if it doesn't prohibit it in the Torah, it's not an actual prohibition. Is there any area in your life that you would say what's good for you is good for others?
You just said a lot of different things that are pretty controversial. I don't know. I mean, number one, okay, Orthodox Judaism only solidified after Judaism was created as a label. So, and if you're speaking for Orthodox Judaism, then you have to speak for Hasidic Judaism, which dominates Orthodox practice. I mean, just in numbers, like alone. Which has this opinion, and that's just the opinion. And you could say it's not rooted in the Torah, but there's a lot of things about customs and traditions that are not rooted in the Torah and in Orthodox Judaism. No one can really. I've never met anyone who follows all 613 commandments with no trouble and no.
You can't follow 613 mitzvot. A lot of them.
Okay, so
Bet HaMikdash laws.
Right. Exactly. It's exactly what I'm saying. Okay. So who's practicing Judaism?
So in Judaism, might doesn't make right. Only because the vast majority of Jews happen to do something, that doesn't make it Judaism. Only because the vast majority of like Hasidic Jews believe in Kabbalah, that doesn't mean that if you do not believe in Kabbalah, you're not Jewish. However, if someone...
That's not the argument that I'm making at all.
Okay. Only because you don't believe in Kabbalah doesn't mean that you cannot represent Judaism. Judaism, from an Orthodox perspective, which I shouldn't use the word Orthodox, but like you said, it's the Reform that essentially created that term to make us look backward and primitive. But observant Judaism, it's almost like a chess game. There's a way to actually prove you're right and prove someone wrong. We have a set of laws called either Torah laws or rabbinic laws. If what I'm doing in any way contradicts any of those two sets of laws, that I'm at that moment not practicing Judaism. However, if there's actually instances that it encourages it in the actual source material, then that's how I know I'm right. And this is why I have this channel, because I want rabbis to come on here and debate me. I think I've debated more rabbis than anyone alive. Just go to my channel on YouTube. Go to TorahJudaism.com and click debates. I have over 177 debates, not out with rabbis, probably around 40 rabbis.
Do you not consider like people who struggle with fulfilling laws and stuff, that take their time? Let's say a woman who takes her time being modest, right? Like, is she not considered practicing full Judaism?
No, she is.
If she practices some areas and not other areas?
You are. Judaism would call you what's called a tinok shenishba. Someone who in some way didn't know any better or is in some way coming back. Like if you were a guy, you'd be like Choser B'Tshuva. Like someone who's returning to Judaism. It's only because you don't keep everything perfectly that's not the standard. The standard is turning your back on Judaism and in some way trying to ridicule where you came from.
Do you see my point? I guess is that when you lose all of the historical continuity and the structures and all of these social and maybe not necessarily rooted in Torah, all of these things, there's blurred lines. There's questions. Who is practicing Judaism? I get you answered it. People who follow the mitzvot. But then there's blurred lines within that. I mean that applies to no one. No one is following 613 commandments, and there's always someone that will disagree. Even in Tanakh, there will be disagreements on practice. So who is setting? This is the entire point of minhag, and the extra Torah, the post Torah developments, the esoteric reading of Torah. The entire point is to be able to deal with these things. It's the entire Judaism could not have survived without these adaptations. And I'm not saying that you're necessarily wrong. I'm saying if you need to be able to answer the question. If you're going to say that the Torah says that people who follow the mitzvot, they are Jewish, and if you don't follow the mitzvot, you're not practicing Judaism, and you can be ethnically Jewish, but that has no bearing in Torah. You can make that argument, but then you need to be able to determine with no question who is Jewish. And the simple answer for the vast majority of Orthodox Jews is that a Jew is someone with a Jewish soul. That's just the answer that has been arrived at via Kabbalah, via.
I agree. I feel like telling people, like, if you don't practice the religion, you're not like connected to Judaism. I feel like it's discouraging for a lot of Jews. It doesn't bring them to wanna.
I mean, I think it's the opposite.
Or practice.
But that's the unfortunate crux of the rabbi's argument, because and so this is the problem that I think I've been trying to articulate this entire time. Do you see what I'm saying? I agree. I mean,
I'm not sure what we're arguing. I in the beginning,
we're not arguing. We're saying, like, we feel like, okay, take ultra orthodoxy for example. Like, many people leave because they feel that they're forced and they have to do these things, and it misses the whole point of the connection with Hashem and connection with Judaism. So me growing up, I went to a Jewish school, pretty religious. I've always been taught that every Jewish person has a Jewish soul, and every person has their level of, connection and how they bring themselves to religiosity. I've never been told if you don't keep Shabbat, you're not a practicing Jew, or, everybody has their struggles. And I think
I'm not saying that either, by the way.
They're not.
I'm not saying that if you don't keep Shabbat, you're not a Jew. If someone turns their back on Judaism and doesn't try to live like in somewhat of a Torah fashion, why would they want to still be classified as Jewish? They're like appropriating some religious status they don't deserve.
But that's just not how things. It's not how it's worked. That's not how it's worked for
since Kabbalah. Kabbalah.
You can pin it on Kabbalah. That's fine. But for me, and for the vast majority of Orthodox Jews, the vast majority of Orthodox Jews are Hasidic, and even in
I mean, that's actually not true, by the way.
That's not true. Actually, they're a minority.
Right. I mean, the
Hasidic Jews. Okay, I'll amend that.
No, Christy. She did the same shit she did to
I'll amend what I said. Kabbalah has completely permeated a lot of Judaism, and it's very meaningful to most. Okay, I'll make the Kabbalah in some way is meaningful to the vast majority of Orthodox Jews.
Yeah, I'm not attacking Kabbalah, by the way. I'm not attacking Kabbalah.
Let me just finish this point. There are Litvish Jews and Haredi Jews that discount that don't necessarily practice in the same way, although they all, the Litvish community has historically really had a large emphasis on Kabbalah, just in a different way than Hasidic Jews. And Hasidic Jews and modern Orthodoxy, conservative Jews, I mean, I guess technically Reform Judaism kind of rejects Kabbalah, but from like a technical standpoint, but my question is, this idea of having a Jewish soul, which you're discounting, you can say it's not rooted in Torah. You can make that argument. I'm sure there would be people that disagree, because all it's based in is the esoteric reading of the Torah and the application of this legal status of Judaism. It's a of being Jewish. This legal status that exists in Torah and Tanakh. So without that, with the way that our society works now, I mean, the way Jews are now,
this is a monologue.
The vast majority of Jews are secular. That's just the truth. There's no avenue for Jews to come back to Judaism. There's no accounting for the vast majority of Jews who are just Jewish and
we have to have a dialogue here, because this is just, I mean, you're using this.
Okay,
this is a platform to rant. I'm not disagreeing with the bulk of what you're saying. Okay, my issue is not with Kabbalah. My issue is with certain ideas that Kabbalah has brought into Judaism. That's it. The notion of a Jewish soul is the main issue. That's it. I mean, in terms of what Chabad does, and I'll tell you, outreach. I think Chabad calls it shlichut. So we call it kiruv. This was invented by the Hasidic movement. I mean, it was invented by Chabad, but I mean, they're not the only Hasidic Jews. Okay, I mean, it's something I promote. For sure, it's a great thing. I mean, it's such a great thing that I extend it to Gentiles as well. But
right, okay, right.
So your issue was initially with my title, Judaism is better. Okay, and now it's changed to something else. That's it.
Okay, but it's just a debate. I'm not as far as I know, I'm not straw manning your position or anything like that. I'm asked. So here's my question. This is my simple question. Out of 613 mitzvot, how many must a Jewish person abandon, or how many must a Jewish person follow for them to all of a sudden turn their back on God? So where is that distinction? You're a rationalist,
39.
Right? I am too. What's that?
I said any of the 39 that would classify you getting death penalty and cut off from your people.
No, I disagree with that.
But
okay, wait, hold on.
But what about that death penalty? So it says in the Torah that we should, I will say Kabbalah. The great thing about Kabbalah is that there's ways to frame, things like sacrifice, animal sacrifice, and cutting off and the death penalty. There's ways to frame these ideas in a context that is just, more ethical for our standards today. But that's besides the point. So the rabbi disagrees. So what's the delineation between a Jew and someone practicing Judaism and someone not practicing Judaism? That's really my question.
I mean, I can't think of the pasuk off the top of my head, but there's a pasuk in the Torah that says that if they turn their back on me, that's when God holds a grudge. That means that as long as you at least, now, this is my rendition to it, because Jewish law doesn't deal with these statements. This is a completely subjective response here. I believe as long as you could articulate where your values come from, that means as long as you're not fighting against Torah observance or the existence of God, which is essentially what atheistical Jews do, then you can claim to be part of this religious heritage. Only because you have some proclivity for cheeseburgers, or you have you have to do something on Shabbos that breaks one of the 39 prohibited categories of labor. I don't think that qualifies you to not be part of Israel. So that's pretty much it. As long as you're sensitive to the fact that your values come from this ethical code called the Torah, that is what solidifies you as a Jew, not necessarily how great you keep those laws.
Well, that's a little bit it's a little bit vague. It's a little bit subjective, like you said. And for me, this is the entire purpose of these post-Torah, if you want to call them that, if you want to argue that they're not rooted in Torah, these derivations in practice and philosophy, which is really what Kabbalah is. It's a philosophical framework, and it's all rooted in Torah. Fundamentally, the Zohar is a commentary on the Torah. I mean, it's what it is.
The first part of the Zohar.
Sorry?
For the first part of the Zohar. I mean, the Zohar is very big.
Okay, okay. So yes, there's philosophical exploration, and there's strange things, and to my own point, like Avraham Abulafia, I guess he tried to convert the Pope. Like there's these weird little elements in Judaism, in Kabbalistic philosophy and history, but it's all my entire point is the reason that these structures have been developed from a historical standpoint. You're a rationalist. I'm saying, okay, if we're looking at Judaism from the outside in, which is none of us are doing, because we all practice Judaism to some degree. I'm saying from the outside in, these structures developed as a reaction to social conditions. And so the idea of having a Jewish soul, you can say it's not rooted in Torah, but it is. I mean, really it is, because it's looking at the Torah and saying we need to preserve this. It's going back to the Torah and finding and it's one opinion, and it just happens to have dominated Jewish discourse. There's always multiple opinions. You're having this other opinion.
What's the argument here? If you're saying, what are we arguing? Hey, look, the problem I have with the Jewish soul is the idea that you are born with it. If someone wants to say that you acquire a Jewish soul after you convert, then I have no issue. But the people who believe in the Jewish soul, like as it appears in the Tanya and in Kabbalistic literature, they believe that if you convert, it's because you were Jewish all along. And that the notion of a Gentile having any redeemable quality just doesn't exist. That if a Gentile happens to love Torah, it's because he was Jewish all along. This notion, I think it's a bigoted notion. This is the issue I have with Kabbalah. There's some
totally
nice
disagree with that.
All right, so fine, we'll disagree.
I think it's inviting. Don't
Well,
you think that's inviting?
Not at all.
To say, okay, if you want to convert, great. Then you can become. Then all it's saying is,
I don't think so.
So I'll tell you why I think it's a primitive idea. It says that the Torah itself is not impressive enough to draw someone to it. That you have to be in some way genetically disposed to the Torah in order to come to it. Huh?
It's not okay. I'll put it this way: you're discounting this idea of the Jewish soul. All it is accounting for one instance where which a person converts. It's to say that their Jewish soul has been lit on fire or whatever it is in Hasidus. Like it's not. There's nothing like outstandingly bad about that. It's not even actually necessarily doesn't even necessarily go against their opinion. They're just saying this Jewish soul, which you don't even believe in to begin with, is this person has it. So what's the problem? So if they convert, then they're Jewish. There's no,
because it's a racist idea. It's a racist idea.
Sorry.
It's a racist idea. In the second chapter of the Tanya, in the second, well, I mean, I'm going to explain. The second chapter of the Tanya that makes a statement, Helek Elokami Ma'al Mamish, that a Jew has a soul that's physically, I mean, it says mamish, like an actually part of God. And it says in the first parak regarding the souls of Gentiles, they come from the Sitra Achra, they come from the unclean klipas, right? And then it introduces the notion that converts have this spark, they're like one of the netzitzot that fell out, like during Tzimtzum, this is where the Arizal comes in. I mean, the whole Tanya is a commentary of the Arizal anyways, right? This is what makes it primitive. You're basically saying, and I've had this argument with Lubavitch's before, like if you have two babies in a table, right? Two babies, in terms of belief, they don't know anything yet. One happens to be born from a Jewish mother and one not. That Jewish baby is superior than that non-Jewish baby. By definition, if something's superior, then something else is inferior. So if that's not the root of bigotry,
isn't Judaism better?
Practicing Judaism is better than not practicing Judaism. Having a Jewish soul is
xenophobic. That's xenophobic, right?
Yes.
Because by definition, if something is better, then all other religions are inferior. I mean, that's the extension of this line of reasoning, right?
When you can choose your religion, then you can be proud of the religion you chose. If you happen to be born with a soul that's irremovable, that's what makes it a form of bigotry.
But you can, if you want to convert to Judaism, then great. Then convert. Then your Jewish soul, I'm saying. So
yeah, but you're saying that a baby is superior just because it happens to exist, right? Just because it happens to exist coming from a Jewish mother. But a Gentile in some way, well, according to Kabbalah, was always Jewish before he even, came out of the mikvah, right? Do you understand the difference? You're saying that someone could be born superior to someone else. That's a bigoted idea. I don't know why you think that's an appealing notion.
It's not. I just don't understand. Like what the issue? I mean, you can call it bigoted, racist. I mean, racist is a stretch because racism has a
I said
meaning.
bigoted. I never said racism.
I'm saying, okay, someone in the comments, he's saying better spiritually, not as a person. A Jew can turn out to be the worst person ever. Someone with a Jewish soul, born Jew. There's a lot of. I mean, look at you know, the irony of this is that if you look at like the history of Jews in Russia, secular Jews are the ones oppressing religious Jews. You know, this is where Hasidus, was developed.
Right, they tortured the Rebbe. Yeah, for sure.
So it's not making a comment on someone's inherent character.
Okay, you know what Chabad says about that? I mean, Chabad says. What Chabad says that the reason there are many Jews who, the vast majority of Jews are atheistical and fight against the existence of God. What they believe, because Jews are so special, they have a double Yetzer Hara that makes them, because they're so special, it makes them so bad. You know, so if they're good, and if they're bad, they're good. I mean, this is how Kabbalists teach. I think this is what makes it primitive.
I don't understand.
You know what I just realized? My people actually do that Zohar thing.
Yeah,
when a baby's born.
I mean, Sephardim are big on this.
And
no, you're thinking of Shalom Zohar. Right, when a baby's born.
They call it a Zohar. Yeah.
No,
when a baby boy is born.
Right. I mean, so Zohar means a boy. I mean, it's you know, like a Shalom Zohar is something they do for boys before their bar mitzvah. I mean, before their bris. I'm sorry, before their bris, they pray in the house like the Shabbos before.
Yeah.
They have a minion in the house to in some way drive out evil spirits that are trying to hurt the child before he gets a bris.
That's what I'm reading right now. Yeah.
Right. So that's a completely Kabbalistic idea. Yeah.
Okay. Basically, this is my. I'll just sum it up because I kind of have to go. It's pretty late. I'll just sum it up. I respect you. I think it's, you know, what you're doing is, as far as I'm concerned, fine. I don't, you know, whatever. I'm saying that by the nature of the particular the way that you're arriving at your argument, and you do have an argument. That's why we were going from place to place in our conversation. There's a line of reasoning. In that process, you're discounting, I mean, just so much of how Judaism is practiced nowadays. I mean, so much, and how so many Jews view the world. I mean, it's fundamental how so many Jews look at Torah. I mean, how so many Jews look at the structure, you know, just everything. I mean, really, and also you're just discounting a lot of Jews and Jews who practice variations in practice.
I'm not. I mean, I never told anyone don't go to Chabad or don't be Hasidic. All right. I mean, you asked me. That. Okay. So how am I discount?
I'm saying.
Okay.
So this leads me to my second statement, and I'll reiterate: is if you're saying Judaism is better and Judaism is this. And someone who's not Jewish is someone who turns their back on God.
Right.
For me, I mean, it's arbitrary. I mean, I guess I forget who it was. Someone said that there's that I guess there's 39 mitzvot that determine if you're going to get the death penalty or something like that. I mean, that's you know, that needs adaptation for sure because we're not going to go.
That's not me. I mean, I didn't say that. Okay, fine. So, I don't think we disagree much.
I didn't say that, but the benefit of having said that, despite having to, you know, justify that, I guess, is that then you get a structure to deal with these questions. But without it, by just saying this is Judaism, Judaism is
all right. So let me tell you,
not having to turn your back. For a rational argument, there's two things. You have Judaism and not Judaism. This is straight Maimonides. This is, you know, a negative imperative and whatever.
All right, we're going to change the subject. We're going to change it. I mean, because you're speaking like 80% of the time here. But I'll give you my diagnosis. I mean,
this will be my last thing. I promise.
Right,
I think. Wait, you have to think about it like this, right? Everybody has their own rabbi, and you have to follow your rabbi and your minhagim. Nobody's judging you about that. Nobody's taking that away from any people's beliefs. Okay. You have your community. You have your minhagim. You have your traditional things. This doesn't make you any less Jewish than someone else.
I would 100% agree. I would say that I would guess that that Rabbi Asher has a slightly different opinion on minhag and these, and maybe this minutia. And
Rabbi Asher, do you not agree that people have to follow their community leaders and rabbis?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you're not supposed to be what's called tivrosh min hatzibor. Like, don't separate yourself from the community. This is not what we're talking about. I think personally that Jesse here is in some way not convinced of the life-changing power of Torah observance. If he was, he'd be able to see what an asset it is to a dying world. Okay,
Rabbi?
If for some reason, like, you had the cure for COVID, okay, but you kept it to yourself, I mean, perhaps you didn't know it was a cure. This is why. If you were really convinced of the life-changing power of Torah observance, of just living a richer, fuller life by being a more ethical individual, I think you'd be running to your neighbors who were less ethical and offering it to them. But because you think it's trivial to a certain extent, and you're keeping it to yourself. That's why. I mean, this is yeah. All right.
I'll put it a different way, because I see it's totally different for me. I want to reiterate, my history is I came from a secular Jewish family, was born in Tampa, Florida. There was a Confederate flag a couple blocks down from my street. I didn't know any Jews. Started living somewhere else. Started, in a Jewish community. I got involved, and I started to do research for myself from a very academic, very distanced perspective. And then I found that it helped me, and so it really was a genuine interest. I mean, I was resistant to Torah and to Kabbalah and these things, these mystical ideas, and these spiritual ideas and these religious ideas. I was resistant to it, and then Torah observance and starting to, make teshuvah and these things. It helped me a lot. So I know it better than anybody. I mean, as I'm sure you do as well. And so I get your fervor. I understand that. What I'm saying, I'm saying that. I
mean, just by the fact that you said you learned Kabbalah during the time that you were learning Torah is a little backwards. You shouldn't go into Kabbalah if you're not fully knowledgeable.
Some people say the age of 40. I don't know if that's true.
It's besides the point. What I'm saying, making a very basic statement, very basic, which is, when you're saying Judaism is better, okay, this is going back to the beginning. Judaism is better. It's fine. You can argue that. I'm saying that your position, the way that you're operating, the way that you're doing this, and the way you're delineating who is a Jew and who is not a Jew, that you're facing problems because of your line of reasoning. There's fundamental problems.
That's not what I said.
So, but
I said atheists are Jews. Hold on. Atheists are Jews. They're halachically Jewish. If you have a Jewish mother, according to Jewish law, you're Jewish. Okay, I don't think you're in a covenant with God. I don't think Rosa Luxemburg, Trotsky, I don't think these people had a covenant with God. Their kiddushin is still valid. They could marry another Jew legally. If they lived in the land of Israel with the Sanhedrin would be able to harm them if they violated the Sabbath. Okay, I mean, I never said they weren't Jewish. They're not part of my religion, right? I mean, they're not. I mean, God said that you'll be important to Him if you keep the commandments. You'll be His treasured people if you keep mitzvot. I mean, why is that so hard? I mean, what? I mean, God believes in ethical relativism. Like everything is the same. We have to. It's just
no. I just think that it's very subtle, but by doing that, you're very subtly discounting and diluting the history of Judaism and the history of different forms of Jewish practice, which are all. I mean, because you made a claim earlier that someone who is Jewish, you consider a Jewish person, not someone who follows all 613 commandments, but someone who their ethics and morals are rooted in a belief in God and Judaism and a belief in the covenant or whatever. You made that claim. Right. Then you have to accept.
We just went over that. You're just repeating the whole conversation, though. Honestly, at this point, you're repeating everything we've already said.
Our new topic, guys. New topic. I mean, this is getting old.
We already said.
Anyways, I appreciate it, Jesse. I mean, I think you're coming to the realization that the statement is not a bad statement. I didn't say Judaism is the best. I didn't say your religion is garbage. I didn't say that. I mean, I like Christianity and I like Islam as long as it's ethical, right? And I've said controversial stuff on this show. I said that if someone who's born Jewish, right? If this person doesn't want to embrace a Torah observant lifestyle, it's better for that person to become an ethical Christian or an ethical Muslim than to remain an atheist. All right. So it shows that I'm very open to other religions. I just think Judaism is better. Right. I think that we should be proud of what we belong to. If it makes the world a better place.
I agree. I'm on my way out.
All right.
Jesse, I want to say something to you because I know you're going to go, and I don't want to miss the opportunity. My name is Joseph, by the way.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I just want to say Dayenu, and why I want to say that is because you asked a very important question to Rabbi before, and I don't think any of us can really address it. But this is what I can say: when we take our eyes off Torah, when Torah does not become enough. Just like Dayenu says, it is enough. If he just gave us Torah, if Hashem just gave us Torah, it is enough. When we take our eyes off of that, that's when we lose ourselves. That's when we lose our connection. And if you want to know how it is that you separate from our Creator, he said, choose life or choose death. So if this day you choose death, if you made the choice of death, to not follow the laws of our Creator, to not be observant of Torah, then you're outside his will, you're outside. And I just wanted to say this, Rabbi, I'm just very interested in your perspective on this. We have 10 generations of people from Adam to Noah. They are not Jews.
Right.
Yet the statement from Chabad is that, and believe me, Rabbi Pearl, I have a lot of friends in Chabad for many years. I'm an Israelite, I'm not a Jew. Okay? I will call myself an Israelite. I believe I'm from the dispersed tribes. I'm not from Judah or Benjamin.
Okay.
I don't know what tribe I'm called back to, but I'm an Israelite.
Mm-hmm.
If it says here that the breath of our Creator is breathed into the nostril of man in the beginning of the Torah, then we know that is truth. And we know that the man that was created was made in the image of our Creator. Now, we come later to say, okay, we're Jews. We're Jews. Abraham comes, he changes from Abram to Abraham, we become Jews. And we're given a mission. Bring the light of Torah to the world. Again, it should be enough. Torah should be enough. Kabbalah is I find Kabbalah to be very disturbing. It's reincarnation. Chabad believes in reincarnation. Okay, I don't believe in reincarnation. I believe one day we'll rise before the Creator, we'll be judged. We'll enter Gan Eden, we'll go into his kingdom, or we'll perish. And so the point of it is this, and I don't want to be long. If the 10 generations that came before were made in the image of the Creator, and they were not Jews, then this is why the rabbi that I follow, and Rabbi, please understand, I'm not a Christian, but I follow Yeshua, I believe in his teachings. When he said to the Samaritan woman, you say to go worship the Creator on this mountain. The Jews say we go and worship him over here. But I tell you, the Father is looking for those who worship in spirit and in truth. And when he made that statement, he's telling all of us, you want to belong to the Father? You want to be a Jew? You need to worship in spirit and truth. There's nothing else.
So I don't care for the term Jew. Okay. Like if I would call our belief system anything, it would be called Torah covenant. That's how the Israelites distinguish themselves in that book, because they made an agreement to keep God's law. That's it. The way we worship God is by keeping his law. Faith is part of the law. So I don't believe Abraham was a Jew. The term Jew doesn't really mean anything, right? It doesn't. It just means that you're claiming some lineage from essentially the Southern Kingdom, but doesn't mean anything. If people wanted to call themselves Hebrews nowadays, which I think means more than calling yourself a Jew, because Hebrew, it's like Ivri comes from the idea that Abraham crossed over. He went from where he was to where God wanted him to be. I think that's a better illustration of our belief system and our walk with God. However, I believe that making the world a better place is a team effort. So this is why we align with other like-minded individuals, i.e. convert into something, right? I mean, it just means being accepted in that community. And yeah, there's strength in numbers. That's be Jewish.
Rabbi, last thing, what would you say to this? Because they brought this up before as well. I do not believe Yeshua is God, okay?
Okay.
I do not believe him to be God, but I believe him to be of the Elohim, meaning of the family of God, taking on the last name. When we say Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, when we call from the beginning, and that is not his name. We know that is not his sacred name. We won't say his sacred name here. I know most Jews will say Hashem.
Right.
They'll say, yeah, right. Okay, I will say his name. I believe from a pure heart you can say his name. But when we say Elohim, see, Christians say they're part of the family of God. I say we're part of the God family. And what I mean by that is when we're adopted into the family, we get the name Elohim, meaning we're part of the Elohim.
No, that's not what that means.
Wait, let me speak for a second. I know you may have an opinion, but let me speak for a moment.
It's not an opinion.
No, you may. I have an opinion.
No, you're translating words that don't mean what they mean. It's wrong.
What does Elohim mean? What does
Elohim means?
It comes from
God.
It comes from the word God, right? It's a title. It's not his name.
Yeah,
he proclaims his name to Moshe. He proclaims his name to Moshe in Exodus. He very clearly proclaims his name, and we could say, and I'm not saying his name, Yud-Veh Haveh. He says his name. He says, you should know my name. It's a sacred name. The Kohanim, they put it upon their heads when they put their hands up to spell his name. But Elohim is not his name. It is a title.
Right. Yeah, Elohim just means God or powerful ones, because the court is also called Elohim. But like, I don't know what the argument is.
Well, no. What I'm trying to say is this: when people in Christianity have taken the deity of Yeshua and made it, it's a Babylonian thing. It's like witchcraft. Oh, there's a Trinity now. There's there's the Father, there's the Son, there's the Holy Spirit. But I do believe that he resurrected from the dead, and I do believe that when he resurrected from the dead, he went to be with the Father. And at that point, he changed. At that point, after death and resurrection, he changed. And he became part of the Elohim. And so that's where I believe he has divinity, in the sense that he is now with the Creator. And as I believe he's Moshiach, he will return. Look, they believe Schneerson is Moshiach. They go to the graveyard every year. I lived in New York.
Can you please explain what he's talking about? Because
no, he believes in Yeshua, but from a different perspective. I mean, he believes that he's with God now. Here, look, I'm not judging him for for his beliefs. I personally believe those are extracurricular beliefs. You can believe that as long as you don't feel that if I happen to disagree, that God is not going to validate my religiosity.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so it's a personal belief of yours. As long as you keep Torah, that's what God says, that he will either bless you or curse you because of.
I keep Shabbos, I keep Torah.
Okay, fine.
Can I say my last thing? My last final statement as I'm leaving. I would say that I have total respect for Joseph. I respect his opinion, his views. What I would say is, and it goes a similar way for, and I believe anyone can believe anything they want. What I would say is, and it's a belief. I would say anyone can believe anything they want. What I would say is, for people who express similar views, and you find similar things with the Black Hebrew Israelites and stuff, like different communities like that, where you do keep, there is kind of a tie down. People are tied down to Torah in a certain way, and they practice a certain stream of, I guess you could say, Jewish-like practice. What I would say is, Judaism, I'm saying the Judaism that most people are practicing, Orthodox Judaism, the majoritarian Judaism that's found in many communities, that it does involve Kabbalah and things like that, but that's besides the point. The idea of Judaism being something more than just belief, just practice, allows for and I get that you're arguing for the other thing. You're saying that it's strength in numbers, and we should be accepting of these people, and that Torah belief and practice should be the fundamental determination of if someone is practicing Judaism or not. But what I would say is that with these, if you view it with the perspective of most Jews, around the world or whatever. I guess you could. It's you can deal with these things, and there is I am Jewish because I practice Judaism, and because I was born Jewish, and do you see what I'm saying? Maybe I'm not being clear.
All right, guys, we're gonna start a new segment. I mean, there has to be a new segment because this is already going for like an hour and a half. All right, well, let's get some Muslims in here. Let's get people yelling Palestine.
I'm taking Joseph's statement. He believes he's an Israelite. He practices Torah. Would I say he's Jewish? He wouldn't say he's Jewish. He thinks he's an Israelite. I think it's fine if he believes that. I would say, because I practice Judaism, that maybe there's some problems with that claim, but it's not my position to discredit what he believes. What I would say is he's practicing Jewish law. I don't think that makes him Jewish. I don't think that he's that whatever. And I think that's again, you're not arguing for like throwing away just conversions and stuff and whatever, but I'm saying there might be some problems with that. Anyway, I think this conversation, I know we've kind of gone in circles. I think it's been constructive. I've appreciated talking with you. I still definitely have my issues with this line of reasoning, but what I would say what changed over the course of this conversation is I expected that there was some bad faith involved. I don't think you have a bad faith argument. I think you are not arguing from a negative place. But I would say I respect everybody. I just think it's maybe Judaism means different things to different people. All right. That's kind of what I would say as I'm looking at it. You know what I mean?
All right, new topic.
All right,
we're the Palestine people. The Palestine people
Thank
disappear.
you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's get some Muslims here. I'm yelling Palestine. Let's kind of like just thin out the air a little bit. Got it.
All right. So I have a theory about Elohim.
Okay.
Okay. So, God began to form the earth. And at some point in history, going way back, maybe it's not, that all of the days of creation are, it seems like, a period of time, so maybe 1,000 years, if a day is like 1,000 years, that we worship the sun, we worship the moon, we worship the stars, we worshiped the small animals, and it went all the way up until we were worshiping man gods kind of thing. And it seems to me that it may be not Elohim as in, it's just saying all of these gods existed, or all these belief systems existed over this period of time. That yes, God had a hand in that, but that the belief system, the religions prior to then were, of this sort of pagan origins. And actually I have the Torah right here. I don't know what Etz Hayim is, Rabbi, but I have that Torah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a conservative one. It's a red one, right?
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. So, it says God, the Hebrew term for God used throughout the account of creation is not the unique sacred divine name, Yud-He, Vav-He, but Elohim, a general Hebrew word for deity, which can also refer to pagan gods. Although plural in form almost always appears with a singular verb or adjective, name connoting universalism and abstraction, and most appropriate for the God of creation. Anyway, your thoughts?
Oh, I don't even have an opinion on this. I mean, it's just because it doesn't affect anything. I mean,
I know it's so abstract.
It's such a trivial matter, in my opinion.
I'll say that, but I mean, it just seems to make sense. Like historically,
I know that Elohim's not God's name.
Didn't we have all those beliefs? Didn't we worship the sun and the earth and the bugs and didn't we worship all those things over time?
Well, yes. I mean, it depends. I mean, this is what Maimonides writes, like in the beginning of his book on idolatry, like on Hilchot Avodah Zarah. He says that the birth of idolatry was that people marveled at the works of creation, at the planets, the stars, the sun, and they were so impressed by it that they eventually started worshiping them. And that is really the birth of idolatry, according to Maimonides' rendition. I'm sure he has some sort of some tradition for saying this. It doesn't really matter. I know. Okay. Yes, I mean the Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's God's name, literally. Elohim just means God or powerful ones, and that's it. Angels are called Elohim. The court of judges are called Elohim, and God's called Elohim. I don't think it matters. I don't,
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of it is so not literal. It's kind of like tongue in cheek, and sort of sardonic at times, and just use a very complex literary form to for the sake of discussion, and I think just for the sake of discussion, ethically and with Talmudic sort of thinking, and with there's so many interpretations of things.
Yeah, I don't anyway. God says in the Torah that the secret things are for God, and what He has revealed for us is for us and our children to do. He doesn't want us to get stuck on the trivial. It's like I think one of the biggest trivial arguments nowadays is monotheism, and it's not because monotheism. It's almost like feminism. Feminism is different from the time of the suffragettes, to what's happening nowadays. Initial monotheism of God being one, sure, I accept that. But nowadays, I mean, it should really be classified as cannibalistic monotheism, that we're destroying each other and you're kicking each other out from our places of worship just because we have a different understanding of what God is. On the complex unity of God from a philosophical perspective. If you don't accept this, you're out. You're not Jewish. The Torah doesn't say that. The Torah says God is one, and there's ambiguous statements in the Torah that are a bit confusing, but that shouldn't be enough to separate you from other people, right? So this is what I don't want this channel to be about, right? Like most religious channels, especially the Christian and the Muslim ones, they're like Muslims are trying to. I mean, they're like monotheistic junkies. They're like the whole basis of them attacking a Christian is not that the Christian's unethical or he's a disgraceful human being. It's because he has a different understanding of the unity of God. This is worth arguing about when there's people, there's guys being abusive, like doing drugs. There's guys, there's more important things to fight. There's bigger wars to fight.
And I think Muslims have a really good understanding of Christianity, and especially Paul. And they're really good at kind of at least waking up Christians about the things that are false in especially the New Testament.
All right, anyways. Okay, so on that note.
I mean, they do.
No, I agree with you. I'm just like out of energy. I mean, I've been going for 3 hours.
So, I mean, I love that you're doing this, and that people have an opportunity to hear something more than just Christianity in this country. So
yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. I know you always come here and you're very kind and very articulate.
Well, thank you.
And I'm just I mean, I'm built for this. I mean, I could take dissenting opinions, and I'm not in any way trying to bash Christianity or bash Islam. I'm just telling people that perhaps they may want to consider Judaism or looking into it. That's it, and that's good enough.
Be Christians on here to start to ask some questions, because that would be awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, come on, Christians.
Come on, Christians, ask questions. No, they know that they have a friend in me, and Muslims also have a friend in me.
Disagreeing too much. We need somebody to come in here with no, but Jesus and whatever.
Yeah. I was suspended for a week, and today at 7:30, I got my live back.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You just cut off when they were
it's
live.
not me. It's TikTok has a mind of its own. It's just one day. Anyways, this is my contribution.
Are you Jewish or Christian?
I'm working on converting.
What?
Yeah.
So ask Rabbi some questions. He's got good answers. I don't have all the answers.
Yeah, Rabbi, I get on all the time. I'm on.
Yeah, no, he's a regular. Which is fine. I like regulars too.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Where are you now? Where are you in your conversion?
I'm in New Orleans, but Rabbi, he's been suggesting I move to Israel and go study.
Wow, that's really cool and radical if you can do it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to come on and ask some more questions about. Rabbi, what was life out there? What was it like?
You're in Israel?
Like on a day-to-day basis, yeah.
When are you going?
Compared to the U.S., because
born and raised in the United States.
Yeah, I don't think he has plans to go yet, but he's considering
I'm really
it.
considering it. I really am, because I was already considering moving out of the country. So
I think you'll love it, in my opinion, but I don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so radically different from the U.S. I mean, just so you know, I mean, it's not like people aren't going to speak English in the vast majority of places. For sure, like in Jerusalem, almost everybody speaks English. It's a little harder to make money there than it is here. I mean, whatever, you have a shawarma and falafel shop on every corner. You have a synagogue. People over there don't even care if you're a convert. I mean, I converted. No one ever asked me if I converted over there. They don't care. Here, like, if you look a little different, they're like, I mean, you look Sephardi. I mean, Spanish people are like good-looking Sephardi, I think. You know, that we have like softer features. You know, and they're like, no, whatever. I mean, they could tell I'm not Sephardi. I mean, Sephardim could tell I'm not Sephardi, you know, but Ashkenazim can't for some reason. You know, I mean, whatever.
Because most Sfardis ended up in the Middle East, so we look different.
No, for sure.
Sephardi.
No, real Sephardi means that you're from Spain, you know, but like Syrians are like Mizrahi. Like, but they sort of lump everyone into Sephardi.
Most Syrians, so the bigger denomination of Syrians are Sephardic, and we've taken on Sephardic tradition because there was a very small group of actual Mizrahi Syrians after the Spanish Inquisition. The majority became Sephardic in Syria, and then we took on the Sephardic as a whole. So we are considered Sephardic.
Are you like Mashadi?
What does that mean?
I think it's Mashadi. I mean, it's a group of Syrian. Oh no, those are Iranian. I'm sorry. I mean Persian. The Jews are there. Everything. Right?
We're completely Sephardic.
Like you're Halavi, right? I mean Halavi is. Like
I'm Shami actually.
Oh, so okay. So it's like
we were one of the later people. We didn't come in the early 40s or 50s. We came in 92.
Oh wait, and we've spoken before, right? No.
Yeah, I'm the definition of Arabized Jew.
Yeah, no, but we spoke before, like today.
I've spoken. Yeah, we've spoken before. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Were we talking about Israel? Was that you that I was talking about Israel about? Didn't you?
No, I think we had a little argument, but we'll talk about that another time.
Oh wait, I mean, are you like the messy Syrian girl?
Like, you're Syrian. You don't even believe in conversion. I'm like, hey, you don't know my personal views.
Oh wait, I mean, are you like the messy Syrian?
No.
Or is that someone else? Okay. No, there's one called Messy Syrian that she gets me kicked out of all the rooms for some reason.
So Reuven is asking about saying Hazak Baruch. What does that mean?
That means strong and be blessed. Like be strong and be right. I mean, Ashkenazim will say like Mazel Tov. Well, I mean, Sephardim also say Mazel Tov. Most people don't know. I mean, I'm like investigative reporter when it comes to Judaism, so I'm here to just give you insights on little things. So, like Mazel Tov has.
So how are you Ashkenaz though?
Because I converted. I mean, I converted 20-something years ago, and I converted Ashkenaz. I converted in my local Young Israel. I mean, in Miami Beach, because I grew up in Miami Beach.
Did you study like Sephardic?
No, I mean, I'm not Sephardic. In Israel, I was in Ashkenazi yeshivas. I was in Aish Torah. I was in Or Sameach. I didn't learn by Sephardim. I did learn by Temanim, like local Yemenites in Israel. That's how I picked up the whole Rambam, and they influenced me a lot in terms of halakha. Sephardic Judaism, I mean, the Rambam identified as Sephardi because he was born in Spain. But Sephardic Judaism post Shabtai Tzvi, I mean, sort of took a big nosedive. It's completely different. I mean, Sephardic Judaism back then meant that you were more of a rationalist. I mean, it was essentially the Muslims that made Aristotle popular in Aristotelian thought and philosophy, like a big thing, right? The golden age of Spain. But post Shabtai Tzvi, Kabbalah, you know, I mean, the Arizal was Sephardi. The Rabbi Moshe de Leon, the one who essentially wrote the Zohar, I mean, some people believe found the Zohar, was also Sephardi. And all that changed the trajectory of Sephardi, like a Sephardi Judaism. I mean, like Sephardim today are more mystically inclined.
Didn't he get his teachings from Shimon Bar Yochai?
Oh, so that's the belief. I mean, the belief is that the Zohar was written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. However, it was found in the 13th century. Oh, whatever, 1270 of the Common Era. It was found in Spain. So rationalists believe that it's a forgery, that it was written by the person who found it. There's a famous rabbi. His name is Rabbi Yitzhak Avako. That after Rabbi Moshe de Leon died, he went to his widow and offered to buy the Zohar, or like the original copy that he found from her. And then she said that he wrote it. I don't know if this story is true. This is what's told. But the Zohar claims to be written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which was a Tana who lived in the 2nd century. But I don't believe that. But even if it was written by...
It's written in Aramaic, though. It's not written in...
Right, it's written in Aramaic. However, there's a lot of there's old Spanish in there too. And also the Zohar we have nowadays is not the same Zohar they had in the beginning. The Zohar was just like a commentary essentially to the Torah. And now we have the Tikkun Zohar. There's more books that were added onto it. But I'm not against the Zohar, I have no issue viewing it like a book of Midrashim, like a folklore and legend. But most people don't view it like that. They view it, they call it the Zohar HaKadosh. Now it's the Holy Zohar. And, they believe that if you don't believe that it's holy, then you're like a heretic and whatever. I don't like being bossed around. Anyways.
Okay, so Mazel Tov.
Oh, right. So Mazel Tov has pagan origins. So Mazal in Hebrew means constellation or star. So Mazel Tov means that you should be under a good star, a good constellation. So I don't know. There's problems with that. It's a statement in the Talmud that says Ein Mazel Israel. There's no that Mazal doesn't, or constellations don't affect the outcome of Israel. That we shouldn't worry about that. So I think traditional Sephardi Jews will say Chazaku Baruch instead of that, be strong and be blessed, whatever. Yasher Koach also is more
I didn't
a proper
know that.
term.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, Kabbalah plays into a lot of the zodiac. There's there's a lot of astrology in Kabbalah as well. The tarot, the whole tarot card system, it's Kabbalistic in nature. The word abracadabra, well, that's actually in the Talmud. It's Aramaic. Anyways.
But
palm reading is also Kabbalistic.
Yeah.
No, but I say it. I say Mazel Tov. I live in a Jewish community. I'm not going to be completely different. I believe that all women should cover their hair according to halakha. I don't send my daughter to school whether the tichel or the mitpachat or whatever. So I'm normal.
So if it can mark time in some way, like the astrology, the 2,600 years of ages. This is the age of Pisces and
Aquarius or whatever.
And then now is we're in the age of Aquarius, and it's the new age, and that Christianity, the age, the fish symbol, which is really a fertility symbol. Christians use that symbol, and it started with the Babylonians used that.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought they used it because Jesus said, "Be fishers of men." I'm a Pisces, by the way. I don't know. I don't really believe in it, but there's a lot of weird coincidences.
Yeah.
Weird coincidences.
So, the age of Pisces was what, the age of Jesus and mythology. And so now we're entering this new age. And
all right, so someone's writing in the chat. How about Siman Tov? So it's the same thing. A Siman is a sign. Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov. Right, it's the same Kabbalistic in origin. So, Rabbi Akiva wouldn't have said it, let's say. Maybe they would have. I don't know.
You were talking earlier about, whether you have a Jewish soul or, who is Jewish or who isn't. I don't know. To my understanding, it seems like, Judaism, Jewish people are special because they have the message. They're the messengers.
That makes sense.
And that, there was a time when, you were saying that even earlier a while back that, how Jewish people used to proselytize, and I was reading about that also, about how dangerous it was for them, and I just shut all that down because it became so dangerous to teach. And now we live in a time where it is safe to teach, and I don't know if I don't know if this sounds nuts, but Christians and Muslims are really into Armageddon happening so Jesus can return. And it seems like we have the technology to do that now. And I don't know what is going on, but the world seems to be going so crazy right now. And, it's a safe time to teach. And if everybody were Jewish, then we wouldn't have these problems.
Obviously.
We wouldn't have Armageddon to look forward to.
My knowledge is minimal. Okay. I mean, what I'm trying to do is awaken a sleeping giant.
Yes.
In some way, getting rabbis to buy into this notion, right? I mean, I think the average rabbi, if he wanted to, could debate Christians and Muslims and win, but they just don't preach what they practice, right? They don't want to spread what they believe, and this is why the world doesn't improve. And I think the way you defeat bad religion is with good religion. The way you defeat bad ideas are with better ideas. All right, yes. Not with staying quiet and saying you can believe what you want as long as you don't hurt us. This is stupid. It just sounds stupid.
Yeah. So when you had your conversion, it sounds like you learned about, the ideas, the philosophies, all the different movements. And I feel like in my experience, when I've seen people converting that were Christian to Judaism, and it didn't work so well, was they were being taught customs and rituals and holidays, and whereas
that's why I tell Asher to do his work, because I don't know if I mentioned, but I was actually raised Christian, and speaking with him and getting an insight on the Jewish perspective kind of helps people that like me that have a question, because
you're breaking up a little
bit.
To
understand the
well, am I breaking up?
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Can you hear
me? Barely. But it's cool. All right. So let's get some Muslims and Christians up in here. For people on YouTube who don't know what's going on.
How are you guys doing?
Oh, hi, welcome. So what's your background? Hello. Well, anyways, for everyone on the YouTube land, we're live on TikTok because I know people see me talking to this phone. Hi.
Yes, the connection is not so good. Okay, I'm a Christian, a Catholic Christian.
Yeah.
You can take off.
I do not like the thing Tim Cha Busan said. I mean, Jesus was a Jew, and Jesus was casted aside by the Jewish authorities. They casted him aside. So to say everybody should convert to Judaism, that is nonsense.
Yeah, but all his followers were Jewish.
Because it was the Jewish authorities back then who made the situation we currently have. So
do you know that for a fact that the Jewish authorities did that to Jesus, or that it's because it says so in the New Testament?
It says so in the New Testament.
So how do we know that is true, that that's something that would have happened?
Yeah, but even
because
if it was,
it is a holy book, it is a belief system. If you ask me that for the same thing, you can ask that Adam and Eve eat an apple, or for the same reason you can say what happened
hold on.
when
all his followers,
the Jewish land was invaded so many times. I mean,
all his disciples were Jewish also.
One part, you should question all of it.
Hold on. All his disciples were Jewish also. His followers were Jewish. Only because he had people who disliked them which were the aristocracy, only because they were Jewish. That's not a reason to discount Judaism and the Jewish people. He himself was Jewish. His followers were Jewish. I mean, doesn't that just wash the argument out?
No. The problem is, the lady Simcha. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I'm sorry, Belladonna. Can I say something? I'm sorry that I said I asked you if how do you know it's true just because it's written. I apologize because I've read so much that. So from my perspective, and no offense, but I don't think that any of that happened. But coming from the viewpoint of as a Christian,
I can see that. I can see that you kind of have like this feeling of a notion of grandness with you. I hear that. But
no,
I think I do not like it.
I apologize.
But
I did not.
I know you believe that, and others perhaps believe in the same way you do. But it's just
so Belladonna. Yeah, I'm sorry if for any offense. I really do not. I don't mean any offense to you at all whatsoever. And I know, and I'm so glad that you're here because you're exactly the kind of person that should be, listening to this. I wish there was something like this many years ago when I was trying to figure all this out myself. So it's kind of like when there was crusades or there was like the witch burnings or there was like terrible things that, Christians have done, that we don't hold all Christians responsible. And I know the Christian response would be, but it was, it was a son of God. Like that was such a terrible, unforgivable sin. But then also, if that didn't happen,
are you calling a sin? It's insane. I don't know what you have been reading, but it's completely insanity. The more you speak, the more insanity I hear. But go ahead. I won't disturb you. I will just comment after you.
Yeah, I just said I don't mean any disrespect. And that
Sure you don't. Yes. Go ahead.
All right. Well, let's be nice.
Well, Belladonna, I think the biggest thing that for me was when I learned as a Christian, and I was very devout, and when I learned that there is no hell in Judaism, and the many mistranslations of the Jewish scriptures into the Old Testament, if there's no hell, really,
that's what did it for me as well, right? Yeah, that's what did it for me as well. All of
Christianity falls apart. There is nothing about Christianity that stands when there's no hell.
Yeah, once you get the right translations and the right situations,
that's the key difference. Yes, people, that's the key difference between Judaism and Christianity. Christianity added the New Testament to the Holy Book. So the Tanakh, the Jewish hold, is the same as the Old Testament the Christians have.
No, Belladonna,
because Paul tells you to eat swine, so it's not,
it is annoying maybe for you to know that, but that is the case. That is the truth.
No, Bill, I do know that. And I'm saying the Old Testament and the Tanakh are not the same book. They're absolutely not.
They are the same book.
I read it word for word, and it's subtle, but there's very massive differences. The differences are subtle, but massively different.
I have bad news for you. I have really bad news.
All right.
Like, there are people, there are people that happens to know both languages and can read both languages and have family members who are also Jewish. So they have read the books and they say it is all the same. So I know I know what you're trying to do, but yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Well, Guyana is not hell, but it was translated as hell. So that is one massive difference. And there's 3 different words mistranslated as hell. That is one example. And that is a massive difference from the Tanakh to the Old Testament. there's no way to say that those are the identical books when the idea of hell is mythology, and Judaism used mythology as a seal to protect the message below. And there's no way to access that information unless you have the studying of like a rabbi, a Jewish scholar, to understand it and to be able to take that apart. It's very complicated.
No, I have spoken to Jewish scholars who happen to be Christian scholars. But anyways, sure, there is a difference. That is why there is a religion called Judaism and there's another religion called Christianity.
Okay.
But to say Judaism is better, that is too far off for me.
Okay, hold on.
But to say that the Tanakh and the Old Testament are identical it's not true. It's not true. It's just not true. To you. Gehenna is not hell. It's not according to me. It's according to what is in those two books. And
okay, let's deal with questions.
Different.
Let's deal with question and answers. All right. So let me ask you a question, Bella. Do you believe that Christianity is better than Judaism?
To my point of view, as a Christian, I find acceptance in Christianity, and I happened to like it.
Okay.
Maybe if I was raised in a Jewish household, maybe I would have found acceptance in the Judaism, and I would have found it okay. But we need to learn to respect the differences and live with it. But what I hear is disrespect.
Well, I'm not disrespecting Christianity.
Forgive me, but Belladonna, you called me crazy. Do you know that you call me crazy?
To me it's crazy. Yeah. Yes, sorry,
No,
but to me it's crazy.
You said I was crazy, and you're asking for respecting different beliefs, but you literally called me crazy.
It comes with respect. One should respect one another, so the other can respect the other. But if there is no respect from the start, then nothing will go well.
All right. Okay. All right. So, do you have a question for me?
Actually, no. I have to go. Sorry. Bye.
No problem.
Bye.
Wait. Hold on. Here, where's your background from? I'm curious where your accent is from.
What do you mean with background?
Like, what's your mother tongue?
For me to know, another time I will tell you.
Right.
Bye.
Okay. All right, no problem.
Belladonna is probably Spanish, eh?
No, she's not.
Italian? Oh, maybe Italian.
Maybe Italian. Maybe. I don't know. That's Spanish. Okay. All right. So let me answer a few questions here. All right. So Joe Blow, don't disappear, because Joe Blow is asking questions, and for some reason I didn't have. Okay. Oh, I guess he left. All right. Is he here?
He was saying to defend the Talmud.
Okay.
I don't know what other question he had.
Fine. All right. So with this idea that every Jew has to justify every statement that appears in the Talmud is nonsense. The reason the Talmud is important to at least observant Jews is because it contains the rulings of the Great Court. Now, within those rulings, there's something called Midrash and Agadah, folklore and legend, which is essentially anything in rabbinic literature that doesn't have to do with law. This is why a rabbi could quote a legend from the Talmud, a medrash from the Talmud, and they'll say, we don't hold by that medrash. What does that mean? Because people pick and choose what they actually take seriously in the Talmud that's outside of legality. Everything that's legal we take seriously. Not everything that's legal we hold by. You need something called like a Masorah, some understanding for at least the ambiguous laws in the Talmud. There's some ambiguous laws that we don't know which way to go, right? But for example, the Rambam, who codified Jewish law, had a Masorah on how to decipher what law was the final ruling. What's the actual din? The idea that we walk around thinking that the whole Talmud was given to Mount Sinai is silly and nonsensical, and it's rare that you're going to find a Jew who believes that. Some Jews believe that part of the oral law was given on Mount Sinai. If you would ask, let's say, Maimonides, he would say what's called halacha Moshe Sinai, the rule, that there are certain laws that were given to Moshe, to like Moshe Rabbeinu on Mount, and he limits those to around 30 laws. And that's it. So that we don't walk around feeling that we have to justify every statement that appears in the Talmud. It's a very big book that was never really meant for mass consumption. It was meant for the leaders of a community to in some way decipher Jewish law for the rest of us. That's it. So do I stand behind every statement that appears in the Talmud? No. Are there silly statements that appear in the Talmud? Absolutely. Are there nice, beautiful things that appear in there? Yes. That's it. So it's, yeah. So Old Testament versus Tanakh. Okay. As much as I enjoy Simcha's company, I have to disagree with Simcha a little bit. So I don't think many Christian translations use the word hell in the Old Testament, even for the term Gehenna. It may appear once in the book of Isaiah, maybe, but I'm pretty sure even Christian scholars acknowledge that Gehinnom, or literally Gei Behinnom, which means like the valley of the son of Hinnom, was a place outside the walls of Jerusalem where they burn trash. And Sheol is typically translated as pit. They may translate it somewhere in the Psalms as hell. Okay, fine. I don't, the truth is I have bigger problems with English Jewish translations than I do with Christian translations of Tanakh. Mainly because translations like the Art Scroll and the Gutnick will use Rashi's understanding of what a verse actually says than what it literally says. And at least Christians make some attempt to take a literal rendition of what's actually there. So, and I know the portions like in Daniel and stuff like that where they insert words that really shouldn't be there. I get it. But it's essentially the same. I mean, it's not a big difference. You're not gonna, I don't think with the Christian version of what they call the Old Testament alone, like someone would come to believe in Jesus. I just don't. I mean, this is why they tell you always start with the book of John. Right? I mean, they actually have little tracts that are just the book of John and Psalms, right? And because that really encapsulates what the average Christian believes.
I agree, John, and then Mark.
I would be fair to the Christianity I was raised in. We weren't taught that specifically, but there is a heavy emphasis on, Old Testament is done away with, which was always the big problem for me because I would always ask the question, okay, well, we reading about all of say people like Jeremiah, Isaiah. If they did all of these things to be able to have this relationship with God, you're telling me now to not do these things? And no one could ever answer that question. No one could ever answer it. I'm like, okay, so tell me how that makes sense.
What else? Okay, so the truth is
we're not supposed to follow the Torah because it's dead. The Old Testament is dead, and the New Testament takes precedence over that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's Paul's fault. Yeah, it's really all Paul's fault. It's Paul's fault, honestly.
So another
if
thing,
they didn't take that as the word of God, then it wouldn't be as bad. But they take Paul's word as
over the Old Testament. Yeah,
right. They take Paul's word as law, and that's what the issue is.
So I would say that the average Jew believes in hell. It's all over rabbinic literature for sure. The Torah doesn't. The notion doesn't exist in the Jewish Bible. But Judaism, Judaism is technically more than just a Torah. I guess Judaism is ultimately what religious Jews happen to believe. So the average religious Jew believes in heaven and believes in hell. I mean, they may not call it hell, they may not call it heaven. They'll call it like Olam Haba, Gehinnom, whatever, Kafakela. There's a bunch of different terms.
Do you think that is actually Christian influence or other influence?
No, the Christians were influenced by the Jews, for sure. For sure. I mean, it's there.
But I mean, isn't it even? Don't even like Jewish people say like there's no explicit promise of like anything after this life.
in the Torah,
We
literally,
call mortal,
yes.
mortal man.
So
many times.
The Reform and Conservative Judaism, because they're not big on rabbinic literature, will try to teach the Torah more from a literal perspective. And yes, that's the literal message in the Torah. It seems that it wants you to be more earthly minded than heavenly minded, and to coerce someone to be ethical, like just because they don't want to burn in hell, seems like a primitive reason to do anything.
Absolutely.
However, that's not how most Orthodox Jews view it. Look at any Orthodox Jew out there from Mizrahi, like the gloom and doom preachers. It's all about hell with them. It's all about,
Really?
Yes, unfortunately, because I don't teach on the notion, but they're big on the notion of hell. Even this notion of the reason they say Kaddish, right? So why do people say Kaddish nowadays? Because they're trying to get their dead relative like out of purgatory or out of hell, essentially.
Oh no.
Because they believe they have to say Kaddish for 11 months and every time they say Kaddish, it gives the person what's called an Elias Neshama. It elevates their Neshama out of hell. So, this is what they believe. This is what this is what most Orthodox Jews believe.
So, from my understanding, there's not really explicit beliefs that you can say, you can hang your hat on it and say, this is 100% true, because we don't have this information. And as we gain information in how things really work, that it always trumps beliefs. Like, you can't have belief about something that you don't actually explicitly have information on.
So, but the average Jewish person or observant Jewish person takes all the legends and folklore that appear in rabbinic literature seriously. And that's where this comes from, right? Even the Christian notion of Satan wasn't invented by the Christians. Like demons, all this stuff is in rabbinic literature that predates Kabbalah. It appears in the Talmud. It talks about, Shadim and Samael, the king of the demons. And even Satan from a negative perspective.
So you don't think that is part of that seal that to appear as the nation, so because it was such a dangerous thing to teach?
What?
It's part of that seal, like that part of the that surface seal of mythology that's sort of like tongue-in-cheek or sardonic, that's not the literal message. Like, if you take apart the word and then whatever that thing is where you take the outer letters and it has meaning, and then you take the next two letters and they have meaning, and then you go all the way to the center. I forget what that's called. But
I believe they actually literally believe that what they were writing. I think they actually believed in the king of demons.
Yeah.
I think they actually.
If you give the book to a illiterate man, he will say, I can't read it because I can't read. And if you give a book to a learned man, he will tell you, I can't read it because it's sealed. The Tanakh the Torah especially is sealed. It's a sealed document. It's sealed in mythology.
So you're talking about Gematria? Is that what we're talking about?
It's either Jeremiah or...
No. You said that there's a system to deciphering the text with like outer letters and inner letters, but is that like when numerology?
Gematria is the mat. I know what you're.
Is it the Gematria? Is it? Yeah, it has a. It might be.
Yeah, it's numerology essentially.
Say my name. My name is Dante.
Yeah.
The letter D has a numerical value.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more than that.
You take all the letters and you add them up, and then you can look it up. There's actually you can look up Gematrix. And you can
No, it's not. It's not the adding up of the numbers.
Right.
It's the actual letter has a meaning. Every letter has a meaning, so it's taking those outer letters.
Oh, she's talking about the living letters. She's talking about the living letters.
Yeah, this is like Kabbalah.
For the somebody's alarm is going.
Mine.
Yeah,
it's the literal letters, and then you go to the middle, and there's a word for it. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, all right, fine.
And then that center letter gets like the clue to what the whole word means. So for the very difficult words,
living letters.
When you're trying to figure out the meaning of a word, when it's a difficult word, there's a way to do that so that you can find that the meaning. It's so hidden.
Esther, look up
Rabbi,
Hebrew sisters. Look up the Hebrew sisters on YouTube. It's like a
I don't
YouTube
believe in
channel.
that.
Like they break down Hebrew.
No, I don't believe it. I mean, regardless, there's a human being who developed that system. You know, so it's like I mean, you can believe in it if you want, but it's still
Exactly. That's what I believe.
But
You haven't heard that the Torah has 7 layers of wisdom?
No, there's 70 faces. I mean, it says Shivim Panim Le Torah. Like there's 70 faces to the Torah, but that's also a medrash. I mean, it's like allegorical. I don't think people should take that so seriously. But yeah, go ahead.
So kind of like the tree of life, the tree of good and evil. I mean, were they literal trees, or are they like a wink and a nod at, we know that the tree of life is Judaism. So if tree of life is always, the Torah is referring to itself as the tree of life. Then if the tree of life represents in Eden, Judaism, then what is the other one that has all this knowledge of good and evil?
I don't know. I mean, I don't. There's many rabbis who could give you a response that's always going to be subjective.
Who proclaims to have the knowledge of good and evil? I mean, doesn't Christianity say they absolutely know there's a hell and they have all these details about hell? Don't they have all kinds of knowledge about demons?
It depends on your perspective. If you're coming from the perspective that you believe that it's allegorical, or you taking it as not literal, then you need an explanation. It just depends on how you're looking at it.
All right.
If you
just hold that note till next time, possibly maybe tomorrow. I'm gonna end already because we're gonna go for 4 hours already, and it's already too much.
All right.
Okay, thank you for stopping by. Thank you.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you. I hope everybody picks something up today. I always learn something new with you guys, so thank you. I appreciate it. Be well.
Talk later.
Be well.
You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy. Bye.